the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ATKC song. The game to the players by their first name. Oh, the umpire, he was wrong all along.
Burn with Mitch Show. Here's your host, Mitch Bernstein.
Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is well on this Tuesday, August the 4th. Tropical Storm Isaias Day here in the East Coast, all along the eastern seaboard. I am back at home from my vacation to the Midwest, where we social distanced, and I took a couple of cool adventures, and I had a really good time with family. We did social distance, so please don't anybody worry. We're all fine, knock on wood. And it was a great time. We'll talk more a little bit about what I did, and I'm sure I know some of you saw where I was the past 2 weeks. Went to visit the Field of Dreams and the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and had a blast both places, and it was just a lot of fun. Baseball nut that I am, couldn't get enough. So I'm back home now, just in time to experience this fun tropical storm that we had today. Here, like I said, on the eastern seaboard, about 3.5, 4 inches of rain in about 3 hours. Wind was brisk, but not too bad, and really was minimal. There were trees down, and people have lost power, but we're in good shape here at my house, and everybody is healthy in my family, and nothing more that you can ask than that. So thank you for being here on the show. We got a great show for you tonight. 3 guests, 2 together, 1 by herself. It's a focus on women in sports this evening. So excited to have my guests with me tonight. We'll talk about them in just a minute. But before I do, let's talk about a couple other things, i.e. sponsors and Zingo TV and what you can get at our 12-ounce sports store. So, my name is Mitch Bernstein, by the way. You are listening to The Burn with Mitch on 12-ounce sports TV and radio. Want to let you know that, all 4 sports will be have begun. Football will begin soon. So guess what that means, those of you who like to make some wagers. You can do that. And I would suggest that you go to mybookie.ag to do that. It's the place to be. If you want to get a little wager going, they'll match your deposit up to $1,000 when you sign up and use promo code 12OZ Sports. And that's 12OZ Sports when signing up on mybookie.ag. You don't want to miss that opportunity to cash that ticket. Hockey playoffs, basketball finishing up, getting ready to get into the playoffs. Baseball is in full partial swing. So get there. I've been on the site. It's amazing. If you don't necessarily want to do sports, which you're listening to a sports station, so maybe you probably would, there are other things that might grab your attention on there, all sorts of casino games. So check it out. Go on to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code 12OZ Sports, and you will receive a deposit bonus up to $1,000 when you use that promo code 12OZ Sports. Okay, you are listening to 12-Ounce Sports. It's your home for the best live talk shows and sports broadcasts on the internet. You can also catch my show and all others on the station, and Captain Lou is following me, the Captain Lou Extravaganza at 8 o'clock. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, but now you can also listen live from my show or watch live some of the other guys on the station. You can watch them on Zingo TV. So Zingo has added 12-ounce sports to their long list of channels. And now, if you're on your smart TV, just download the app and go to channel 761 to catch me as I'm talking right now, and maybe other replays that are showing from all the other shows. All you have to do is download Zingo TV, use promo code 12OZ. That's 12OZ when signing up. It's that simple. And we also have a lot of blogs and podcasts, so go to 12ouncesportsradio.com and check all that out. And I also want to encourage you to go on to our store. We have a lot of cool things on the store. We have got the following. We have a new 12-ounce sports mask. We have t-shirts, phone cases, a fanny pack, a mug, a tank top, and hoodies. So check it out on there. If you have the opportunity, you want to grab some goodies, decent prices, and help support the station. We appreciate that very much. All right. So those are my little ads for you. Check out Zingo, check out my bookie, and check out the 12-ounce sports radio store. Lots of good stuff on there. We appreciate all your support. So tonight, coming up at 6:20, we have not one, but two former players from the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. Maybelle Blair, who played for the Peoria team, the Peoria Red Wings, I believe. She and I are going to talk about Peoria because I just came back from there, interestingly enough. And then Maybelle played a year in 1948. And then Shirley Berkovich played a little bit longer. She played for 3 years, finishing up, I believe, with the Rockford Peaches. They called her Hustle. She was an amazing utility player. Played every position but catcher. So we're going to talk to Maybelle and Shirley about their experiences. Shirley actually had a line in A League of Their Own. You really want to talk to them about a couple things. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about initially their playing days. What was it like? What was it with I hear the movie did depict a good amount of what actually happened with the chaperones and with the buses and all that stuff. But I'm going to find out if there's something that we're missing that we didn't see in the movie A League of Their Own. And then after they both left playing sports, Shirley with baseball in the AGPL, and Shirley left and went and played professional softball. They both had terrific careers in management. And as women back in the day, that was a rarity. So they were kind of they were trailblazers. So we want to hear about that story too. Maybelle worked for Northrop, and Shirley worked for what was then called Pac Bell. So we're going to talk to the ladies about that. And then to finish up, we're going to talk to them about what they're doing now. I know Maybelle is big in supporting women in baseball. So is Shirley. And they are, for as long as they've been around, they are still energetic and able to throw the ball. And if you go Google some of their appearances, it's just pretty great and amazing to watch them still be able to be active, promote women, girls playing baseball, and figure out how we can get more girls in leagues to play baseball. You'll hear maybe I'll mention that probably a few times within the conversation. So we're going to talk to them about that. And then at 6:55, honored to have Lindsay Berra on the show. Lindsay is the granddaughter of Yogi Berra. And looking forward to talking to Lindsay. I found out that Lindsay and I have something in common. And that is we went to the same high school. Had no idea. She lived in the same town as I did when I grew up, though our paths never crossed. She's a little bit younger than I am, quite a bit younger than I am. But come to find out, she and my parents were probably neighbors. So that's going to be fun. Lindsay has done a lot of work in sports journalism. She's also written a lot of articles, and she's a freelancer now, writing a lot of articles on the health scene, and injuries and health in sports medicine. So, well, we're going to talk to Lindsay about that. She was also a tremendous athlete in high school, so we'll talk to her about that. She was the captain of her men's Livingston High School men's hockey team. She is in the Sports Hall of Fame at the high school, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about the current status of baseball and see what she thinks. And I always like talking to folks about what they think about, and I've brought this up many times before, analytics and what her grandfather would say about how the game is being played right now. So look forward to talking to Lindsay at 6:55 about what she's done in her career, MLB, writer for, I believe it was ESPN Magazine, and now freelancing. And there was an interesting article that I want to talk to her about real quickly. She wrote an article in a Men's Health magazine about not necessarily using ice to heal wounds. So I really hadn't heard that. She did some research and talked to a doctor that initially came out with the RICE, rest, ice, compression, and elevation for a ankle sprain, shoulder, whatever it is, an injury such as that, ligament type damage. But the author, Lindsay, and the doctor who she talked to kind of refute that now, and opposed to popular opinion, which is still being done, I'm sure. I found it very interesting, so I want to talk to her a little bit about that. So when we're done with Lindsay at around 7:30, we're going to talk current status of baseball, go over the standings, see how things are going. The Yankees are kicking butt. The Dodgers are also playing well. The Red Sox are not. No, that's not unexpected. So, and looking at my Phillies, they are now 1-3, and only 2.5 games out because they've only played 4 games. We're going to talk a little bit about what the Marlins did or didn't do to cause the Phillies schedule to be abruptly halted, and didn't play till yesterday, and of course not playing tonight because of our tropical storm, and then they begin back up again tomorrow here in Philadelphia against the Yankees. Then at 7:40, we're going to announce the winner of the contest that I ran when I was at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. I posted a picture without a name of a player's statue, and folks had to guess who that was. We had a number of guesses. Thank you for your participation. And we have a winner. So we'll be announcing the winner of the contest later in the show. We will have prizes given out. And then we're going to have another giveaway, another contest that will be posted by Kelsey, who is my social media manager, also happens to be my daughter. She gets paid very well. She will tell you otherwise. But she'll be posting a picture, and the question is, who did it? So that's your question. When she posts, we're going to take correct answers again and announce the winner. Next week, we have a Field of Dreams themed prize for you if you are the one selected as the winner of all the correct answers. So that's going to be the show. And then we'll talk a little more about it. We'll hit the basketball, hit the briefly. We'll hit hockey briefly, and then we will talk a little bit about football as training camps get ready to rev up. The news here in Philadelphia: Doug Peterson has COVID. So he is coaching from Zoom, I guess. Deuce Staley is taking over the reins in person. And the hope is that training camps will open on time. I believe players have until Thursday to opt out of the season. So, and several folks have done that already. And we will see how that goes and how many more will opt out by Thursday. And some other interesting sports news in the college level. I believe the Pac-12, a bunch of players from the Pac-12 teams have put together some, quote, demands of the conference in order for them to want to play. I guess they'll negotiate that because they want to feel safe. They bring up the argument of, we're not compensated, and they haven't been, obviously, up till now. Is it time to do that? Is it your choice? They're looking for, the better players are looking to, they want to play, but they want to make sure that they're safe. And the same thing with everybody else in any sport. Will their fans be allowed? Will they not? I know here, several weeks ago, I talked to the coach of our high school football team, Mike Rickey. He was going to be in a meeting the following day with the PIAA here, the high school governing group for high school sports. And just as recently as, I think, last week, they decided that they're going to go for it and see what happens, but with no fans. So we will see what happens with that. And it'll be interesting to see how people react. And I know that there's a local school district has said that they're putting, here in Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania, they are putting fall sports on hold. So it's all going to depend upon the school districts. And did you see the picture on Facebook today or Twitter? There, a school in Georgia opened up and the hallways were packed. I think somebody posted that there are maybe 4 kids wearing masks. So, not the best situation down there in that school in Texas. So, we still got this thing going on. You have to, and I was listening to Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN last night. He's saying 3 weeks. Just everybody needs to wash their hands and social distance and put your masks on for 3 weeks. And then we can definitively flatten this curve for the rest of our brief time. God forbid it should come back up during flu season. But we just have to do what's right. I'm in this older age group. And I don't want to get sick, and I want you to be responsible, and I want to be responsible for you. So please, mask up. Wash your hands, social distance. Be cognizant of everybody around you, and we'll come out of this better. Less cases will dwindle like they were, and we'll be able to get a handle on this, and hopefully a vaccine, and then the next issue comes up. Who gets the vaccine? So we'll see what happens at that point. So what we're going to do now is we're waiting for a call. We're getting a call from Maybell and Shirley. Technology, as we say, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. So we did a practice phone call before the show on my cell phone, and their representative, Donna Cohen, was able to get them both on the phone, and we'll talk that way. And it sounded good, and we should be okay to go with that. So, waiting for Donna to give me a call, and we will get them on the air, and we'll talk some All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, which was depicted well in A League of Their Own. And if you haven't seen the movie, shame on you. Go see the movie. Go pick it up. Get it right now. Get it somewhere. Netflix, wherever. You got to watch the movie. It's great. And then if you have any questions for either Maybell or Shirley, please send them in on Twitter. We'll try and get to them as best we can. Though we only have a limited amount of time with both, we will try and get to them as best we can. All right, they're here right now, I believe.
Hi.
Hi there. Who do I have? Is this Donna?
Okay, you got it all?
all okay?
Yeah.
Is everybody here? Shirley, are you present?
I'm here.
Yay.
President's here.
Maybell, are you here?
And you better believe I am.
Love it, Maybell. All right, ladies, thank you for calling in. I really appreciate it. I can't tell you, as a fan of, I'll obviously first the movie, and then reading more about the league, how enamored I am of what you did, and how you trailblazed through this unique time in history. And I'm so excited to talk to you, to talk to actual players. So if I get a little excited, that's just me.
Well, you can't get more excited than I am.
Maybelle, I know. I see interviews with both of you. I love listening to them. I want to start from the beginning. So what I want to do, Shirley and Maybelle, is I want to do 3 little segments. First, we want to talk about your playing days. Second, I want to talk about what you did after baseball, the league, and then third, what you're doing now, because I know you're both involved with doing some things now too, with baseball. And Maybelle, I have to start with you, and I have to tell you why. I just came back from Peoria, from vacation.
Oh, really?
My in-laws, I met my wife. She is from Peoria, Illinois.
I'll be danged.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that amazing?
So, Maybelle, when you were in California, and how did you know that there was some way you could play baseball?
Well, are we on this thing, or are you're just talking to me
No,
now?
we are live on the air.
Oh my God, isn't that lovely?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. How did I get to play baseball?
Yeah.
I grew up in a baseball family. I'll tell you, if you didn't play baseball, my mother threw you away.
Well, that's good.
Well, I mean, we eliminated kids in a hurry.
Well, that's
But anyway,
Yeah.
I grew up in the baseball family, and that's all I ever knew was baseball. In fact, my brother, he was a little older than I was, 7 years, and he had a little uniform that he just loved. I mean, it was flannel and everything. Well, anyway, when he'd leave the house or go someplace and my mother knew he wouldn't be back, she'd let me wear it. So, oh my God, I thought I was the cutest thing that God ever lived in that uniform, and I was ready to join the New York Yankees right then and there. But anyway, that's the way I grew up, just loving baseball.
so it was a family sport, a family love, basically.
Right. I mean, goes way back. My mother told me she was the best baseball player of all the girls in the county. You know, naturally, she thought so. And my dad and his family all had a baseball team, and they traveled all over Texas playing ball.
Okay.
So that's the way I grew up.
And Shirley, I read something about you. Is it true that your brother kind of forced you to go try out?
Well, I don't know that he forced me, but he was instrumental in getting me there.
Okay.
Had he not taken me, I would have never gone. I know I would have never gone alone.
And
So, yes, he was an influence on me
and
in getting me there.
was he a player too? Did he love the game also?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he was a good player. In fact, my brother, he was kind of like me. We were both kind of backward and shy. And when he was in the service, one of the of his team, you know, they usually had played baseball there in the service on their little off times.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ball players in his division was an ex St. Louis Browns player, and he told my brother when he gave my brother a card, and he told him when he got out of the service to go down to the St. Louis Browns and try out. And like I said, my brother was kind of backward like I was, and he had no one. He had no one to take him down. My dad worked, and so I think he never went. So.
Gotcha. So.
And I think he didn't want me to miss that opportunity.
Right, which is worked out obviously for the best. So my question, in the movie they show everybody trying out on one field. So was that kind of what happened? Did some ladies not make the team and the teams and some did, and you guys obviously did?
I imagine that's what happened because we did. We all were on one field trying out, and after the tryouts, it was, they sent you home and said, we'll get in touch with you. And a couple weeks later, I got a telegram saying to report to spring training.
Not a phone call.
Not a phone call. A
Telegram. That's right. And Maybelle, you left California, correct?
Oh, well, I'll tell you how I got in is I was out playing softball, and like in the movie, the scout came out, and he said, "Oh, Maybelle," he says, "I want you to go play professional baseball." I says, "Well, number one, there isn't any such thing. Number two, my mother won't let me." Well, to make a long story short, he just kept insisting. So I said, "Okay, you can follow me home, but you're just wasting your time." So he came home, and I introduced him to my mother and my father, and he went on and on and on about the league and all of this, and my mother kept saying, "No, no, no." And finally he says, "Well, Mrs. Blair, you just don't understand. We're going to pay her $55 a week." And my mother looked over at my father and said, "George, go crank up the car. I'm packing her suitcase, and she's out of here."
She's gone.
So naturally, I caught the Santa Fe back to Chicago. And that's the way I got it.
And that's the way it got started. So
they thought they were going to get a lot of money from me, but they didn't realize I was going to spend it all.
Spend it all. Well, and I also hear, Maybelle, listen, I understand you really didn't behave a lot either because you were fined sometimes, weren't you?
Oh, well, not sometimes. Quite a few times because I acted up a little bit. I did a few things I shouldn't have done, but, there was nobody that enjoyed it more than I did.
Than you did,
I lost
yes.
most of my money playing poker. They taught me how to play poker.
Yeah.
And that was the wrong thing to do.
Bad move, huh? All right.
Yeah, well, bad thing on the bus,
Yeah.
So we'd go to town to town. They loved to pull down the suitcases, and man, when they teach me how to play poker, and they taught how to take all my money.
And then
That's why I like to gamble today, I think.
I was going to ask you that. Are you still doing that kind of stuff?
Oh, you better believe it. I still haven't learned, Mitch.
Yeah.
I still haven't learned.
No.
At 93 years old, I still think I'm going to go clean the plow.
Why don't you just keep going? It's okay. I don't think anyone's going to stop you right now.
I don't think so.
No.
Even because all I do is get out my WD-40 and oil my bones up, and I'm on my way.
There you go. So Shirley, they called you Hustle. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell us why.
I don't know. It was my teammates when I played on the tour team. I don't know. I guess I just put everything I had into a ball game.
Mm-hmm.
I hustled around the bases. I hustled in the dugout. No matter where I went, I just tried to give my 110%.
Yeah, and
I guess it just stuck on.
And, I'm sure, and I talked to Bob Kendrick, the Negro League's president, several times, and similarly to the Negro League players who had to make their own league, segregation was tough, obviously, but they got through that, and they just wanted to play. And I know you and Maybelle felt the same way. You just loved the game so much you wanted to play. So give us a little bit of description, what it was like on a game day.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Oh, okay. Game day. Well, game day was kind of a routine thing. You got up in the morning, you had breakfast, and then usually you wanted to be to the ballpark for most of our games were night games. So we'd usually, I like to get, when we were at home, not on the road, but when we were at home, I'd like to get to the ballpark early, and so I'd have a light lunch and off to the ballpark, and then there at the ballpark go through the motions, batting practice, fielding, playing, and so that was about the routine for me anyway.
Okay, and Maybelle.
Well, I like to get there a little early, but I like to get in there and get my little uniform on, that little dress and everything, and get all pripped up and get on my spikes. And then I love to walk around in the dressing room, and I can hear that beautiful music of clickety-click, clickety-click, when you're walking and the spikes are hitting the cement.
Yep.
Oh, my God. That, to me, was the most beautiful music. And that got me inspired even more, and then I was ready to rumble.
Ready to rumble. And
I was out there and just having myself a ball. And, oh, my goodness. I just love every minute
every
of it.
second of it.
And walking out to the ballpark, and then you'd see the grass, and you think, oh, my God, how lucky can I be?
And
see this beautiful green grass.
Yeah, and the dirt. Here's the question.
And the dirt. I've still got dirt in my rear end, from sliding. We didn't have any sliding pads.
I was going to...
If you reach back in my rear end, you can still pick out gravel. But we didn't care, we wasn't on the tail list. We
That's
just
right.
got it all patched up, and away we went again.
And this is a PG show, so keep it right there, okay?
Oh, okay, I got to be nice.
Okay,
sir.
Calm down now. That's all we're going to talk about that for now. But, so a couple things real quick I want to ask about the games. What kind of crowds did you all have?
We got good crowds. I'm just talking from what I've read. When you're out there playing ball, you're not looking to see how many people are in the stands.
Right.
So, but I know we did get good crowds. Probably maybe at some ballparks in the 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we were well liked, especially in our hometowns like Rockford, Peoria,
yep,
and places like that.
Right. And Maybelle and Peoria, what was it like being there?
Oh, it was wonderful. People were very nice. They loved baseball like we did, and there wasn't the great major league ball players were playing, so that's why we got to play.
Right.
So that's why they enjoyed us so much, is because they didn't have gas stamps or anything to go to the ballpark, because in those days they didn't. So the best thing to do was go watch the girls play, and they adopted us. They loved us.
Which is
absolutely loved us.
Yeah, and that's got to be.
That's what happened.
And that had to motivate you even more. When for you, I'm hearing, that click, and then you get out there, and then again, just to know that many people were watching had to have just, motivated you even more.
Oh yeah, the louder they got, the more feisty I got. I don't know about Shirley, but what about you, Shirley? Did that ever affect you at all?
I wasn't interested in crowd. I was interested in the ball game. I focused on playing the game, and whatever was out in the stands was I don't know. I just never paid any attention to that. When I was out playing, I don't know. I was so focused on the game that the surroundings, I guess, didn't bother me.
That's a very focused professional outlook, which is that's what you were there for, and you were getting paid for it, and you were happy to play. So Shirley, you played for 3 different teams for 3 years, right?
Yes.
Either of those teams your favorite to play on?
Mitch, I was just so thankful to be playing ball.
Yeah.
I really didn't care where I played
right.
or who I played with.
Right.
It was just such a thrill to have the opportunity at that time, in that era, to be able to say that you played baseball.
Yes, professionally. And did you, Maybelle and Shirley, did you know at the time how much of an impact you had historically, what it was like, what were people looking from the outside? We didn't know it until League of Their Own came out. But did you know when you were playing? Did you have any sense of that?
Oh, God, no. Mitch, we didn't have any clue until Penny Marshall started making the movie. People weren't even aware of it, especially the people out west. They never even heard of it.
Right.
So it was something else when Penny Marshall decided to make the movie League of Their Own, and that's what brought it to forefront that women did play professional baseball.
Yes. So a couple questions before we move on to what you did after baseball for each of you. I know what the best thing was, which was obviously playing. But is there another best thing, and what was the hardest thing?
What was the best thing, did you say?
Yes, the best. What was again, playing we know, but what else was the best, that a memory of the best that you had when you were in that era, and what was the hardest?
I think the best thing for me was the camaraderie of my ball players buddies. We all became very, very close and became very dear friends because we loved the same thing. We all had the same love of baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and that to me was the most wonderful thing.
And what was
the worst?
Yeah, what was the worst?
It was probably when the league folded.
Yeah.
Was the worst for everybody because Shirley can tell you better than I can how it affected her. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, yeah. Well, the best thing for me too, like Maybelle said, just to have that opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
just to have that opportunity to be playing baseball in the 40s. I mean, who'd have ever thought that the women would be playing professionally baseball at that time?
Right.
But yes, she's right. The hardest thing had to be when the league folded. I mean, we were all. I thought that was going to be my career.
You did.
I had no. I was 16 years old when I signed my first contract.
Wow.
I thought I had the rest of my life to play baseball, and that's all I planned for. I made no other arrangements for anything else. And so, yes, she was right that when that league folded, it was devastating to not only us, but to all the girls who played in the league.
All the women, yeah. So how did that? How were you notified when that was going to be it at that point?
Well, I left in 1951, which was before the league actually folded.
Right.
So
Okay.
I really wasn't notified in any way that I just knew about it. Just
Okay.
heard about it.
You heard about it. All right, let's move on, ladies. I mean, we could talk forever on your playing days, but I want to give you your due, because in looking at what you've done after baseball initially, the league, truly, and the word that I read and comes up as trailblazers. So Maybelle, you ended up working at Northrop for 30 years. Is that right?
Yeah, 35 years.
35 years. One of only 3 female managers there.
Yeah, when I first got my advancement, I was the 3rd woman supervisor of Northrop Aircraft. That was a few years ago. There's quite a few of them now. Lots of them.
But, one of 3 then was huge. Again, history-wise, mainly, obviously, men. Were you shocked when that happened? I mean, you obviously knew you were good at what you were doing. But what was that like to finally hear that you were going to be a manager there?
Well, I was in a department which was highway transportation, which served all of Northrop Aircraft. And that included internal transportation, highway transportation, and all the cranes and forklifts and all of that stuff, which was all included in transportation. Anything that moved on wheels, we were involved in.
Okay.
And we had about 3 girls or 4 girls at the time that worked in the department, and the rest of them were all men, and I was one of the girls. So anyway, I worked my way from being a courier, which was going out and picking up all the VIPs
Mm-hmm.
and bringing them into Northrop for meetings and what have you. And my most important one was Ronald Reagan.
Is that
He
right?
was governor of California. And that was quite exciting because I was a fan of his as a movie star, and then he became governor. And I was really thrilled to be able to handle Ronald Reagan. And I picked up heads of states and kings and what have you. But then I became dispatcher, and then picking up everything from people to large items for the semi-trucks and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And then my boss told me that he wanted me to become a supervisor. You're out of your cotton picking mind. I'm not going to. I can't do that. I said, I'm a woman. I can't, you won't. No, it won't work. And he says, yes, it will. And I says, well, if you're going to give me a chance, I first want to learn how to run every piece of equipment that we have.
Smart.
So nobody's going to pull the wool over this old girl's
Yeah,
eyes.
exactly.
So anyway, I did. I went out and learned semis, buses, trucks, bannies, forklifts, what have you. I learned every piece of equipment. And then I said, well, now if you think maybe I can make it, I'll try. Well, anyway, he did, and he made me the third woman manager of Northrop Aircraft in a department that really didn't call for women. It was mostly all men.
Mostly all men.
And
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I did at Northrop Aircraft, and probably the biggest, most exciting job of the whole cockeyed thing was moving aircraft with the fully wings on from Hawthorne to Edwards and Palmdale. And I'll never forget when we moved the F-17, which now is called the F-18, you know, for the aircraft, for the anyway,
The Air Force?
the Navy.
The Navy, okay.
And when I got up to Edwards Air Force Base with that aircraft, my legs were just about to buckle underneath me, and they were playing Off We Go in the Wild Blue Yonder with the red carpet and everything. I'll never forget that
That's-
as long as I live.
That's cool. So
Most exciting part of my whole cockeyed life.
so you
It was
moved an
quite
aircraft.
Amazing.
You moved an aircraft. Is
Hello?
you moved a jet, a fighter jet?
Yeah, it was a whole airplane.
The whole plane. Wow.
Whole plane on a semi-truck.
That's pretty
Uh-huh.
cool. That's
Through
pretty cool.
downtown Los Angeles, all the way to Edwards Air Force
Edwards
Base.
Air Force
Yes,
Base, yeah.
all the way.
Very
That was
cool.
so exciting. Oh my gosh. People were moved over. I had to tear down signs and way ahead of everybody. And I had
Yeah.
about maybe 30 men helping me. I was out leading it. And my truck driver was driving. We had transportability, radio, fire department,
Everybody.
the garage. We had
Great.
transportability people and and what have you.
Cool. Very cool. Shirley, you also had a long career at what was then called Pac Bell. Is that right?
Yes.
And
Long, but not as illustrious.
well, you didn't move airplanes, I guess
I
not.
didn't move airplanes.
But still, again, back in those days, for you to be able to work in a man's, and I'm assuming was a man's world, pretty much.
Oh, well, not the job that I had, which was an entry level job.
Okay.
Was as a telephone operator, and we were all women.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I didn't get into the man part of it until I moved to a different department, and that's when we got into installers and linemen and things like that.
And did you were you supervisor or were you line person?
I was never a supervisor.
Okay.
I just liked to go to work, do my job, and come home.
And come home. Right. Exactly. Just go out.
And she should have been a supervisor, I was told, but she wouldn't accept it because Shirley is Shirley, you know. She's different from the rest, especially she's different from me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I heard better. Well, it's true, Shirley.
See, Maybelle
But
knows
I-
you. Maybelle knows
but
you,
I-
Shirley. Maybelle knows, but that's okay, right? Listen, it worked out in the end anyway.
But I did enjoy my 30 years with the company. If it wasn't going to be baseball, I would say the telephone company came in second.
That's great. You did what you wanted to do, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
And-
right. I had a job that I loved.
Right.
And that is always important. That if you don't have a job that you like, then you're in deep trouble.
And as you both know, taking the love, the like and the love of what you do, we're going to go forward to what you're doing now. You both love playing. You both loved being with your player, your teammates. You both love the game. You both loved working. You used your skills and you loved it, which is, again, lessons for the kids these days. Do what you love, otherwise it's not going to work out. But now you're continuing, as from what I see and what I read, both of you helping to help young girls continue to play baseball. Is that right?
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, yes, that's our main object now, is to get women's and girls baseball. We have so many thousands of young girls and women playing baseball today that people don't even know about. And that's what Maybelle and I are trying to do, is to get out there and promote the sport and give these gals the same opportunity that we had to play baseball.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would tell folks, and I have Lindsay Berra coming up after you. We finish with you two. Yogi Berra's granddaughter. She's a woman journalist, and it's been hard for not just her, but a lot of the women journalists that have come on. They have to push harder to prove themselves in this man's sports world, so to speak. But she loves what she does. The fact that, and when I grew up, girls didn't play baseball. There wasn't even any softball, Maybelle. I didn't even know of any softball in the 70s that girls played. They do now. I helped coach my team at the high school I work at a couple years ago. But yeah, no baseball. I mean, here and there, Little League, Monet Davis, one of them, obviously. But there is, and there needs to be, more opportunities. And Maybelle, I've heard you talk on interviews, we need to get girls' leagues going.
Yeah, we want to get another league going, and we're working so hard on that to give these girls the opportunities that Shirley and I had. They pushed the girls into softball. Softball I love. I play professional softball also.
Uh-huh.
But give them a chance to play baseball if they want to. And Shirley and I are now involved in Rockford trying to build a museum and an activity building, and we're called the International Women's Baseball Center.
Right.
And we're raising money now to build that. We already have our property
Great.
and everything. Now we need the money. Rockford was the cradle for women's baseball, and we want to continue that.
Right.
And we want to see this opportunity where we can have our own museum, have our own Hall of Fame for women, not only in the United States, but the world. Because so many of the other countries are far ahead of us right now in baseball.
Right, and you see... I'm sorry.
It's amazing. Japan, Canada, and Australia are all ahead of us right now.
Yes. And even though, yes, and it's good to, unfortunately, no Olympics this year, but we want to be able to promote baseball with girls. Is there a way, is there a thought process, and I'm just off the top of my head thinking, would you be able to, or have you been able to think about the process of organizing girls baseball like Little League and have a girls league, All-American Girls Little League perhaps, where it could be, every state could get its own association, get its own directors, and run leagues like that?
we would be thrilled to death if that would happen. That's what we're trying to promote.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, IWBC is sponsoring a little girls team there in Rockford. And we would like to see this take off like wildfire, but we need more publicity, Mitch.
Yeah.
And we need more people to get involved, and the fathers that have these daughters help us promote this, and people like you and more people like you. And
Yeah.
if the more publicity we get, the better off we'll be, naturally.
Well, I'm definitely on board. Listen, I love, I've worked with kids all my life. I love the coaching I did with softball, but baseball is my love. I'm going to be moving to Wilmington in about a year, and I don't know, one of the thoughts I have is to find out where I can get girls to play baseball. I'll be retired, so, I'll have some time.
Good.
So I'll keep in touch with you, with the IWBC, and see where we can go with this, because I would love to help out.
Oh, it would be so wonderful for the country, and especially for the little girls who love baseball.
Yes.
I mean, that's what we grew up with, was watching and listening to the baseball games. We weren't listening to softball. We were watching baseball and loved it, but there wasn't any place for us to go.
Right, I know.
So I know how the girls must feel today, I have to play softball because then I can get a scholarship to go on to college. And you can't blame these girls, although they like to play baseball. But I would like to let them know that they can switch from baseball to softball anytime, because during our league, we had a professional softball league going, which I also played in, and the All-Americans. And the girls switch back and forth all the time from one league to the other.
Well, listen, like I said, I'm on board. I love the fact that you are still actively pursuing this with girls. Like I said, I have twin daughters. One played softball, and one loves baseball with me right now. So it's something that I surely, again, I am on board with. I'll keep in touch with all of the IWBC folks. And, when I move to Wilmington, I'm going to look into seeing, I'll contact the Little League, I'll contact you guys and see what we can do about getting the teams together.
Oh, my gosh, Mitch, that would be so wonderful.
Because I just love baseball. I love working with kids. Just love. See the love thing coming for full circle.
Thank you, Mitch. We need more people like you out there promoting.
Happy.
Because Maybelle and I can't do it alone.
I know.
We need help.
Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Ladies, I wish I could talk for an hour, but I've got somebody else coming on in a couple minutes. But the time I have is treasured. I appreciate you doing this. It's so awesome that you have done what you've done in your life and your career. I wish you the best of health and continued success promoting these girls in baseball.
Yeah, and we want to also let the girls also know, Mitch, that it's not only playing baseball, but they can be in the front office. They can be out on the field,
Yep.
taking care of the grounds. They can be coaches. They can be writers. They can be everything. That's what we're trying to promote.
Exactly. Ladies, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I want you both definitely stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll be in touch.
Oh, thanks a million.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Mitch.
Take care, Shirley.
Bye.
Take care, Maybelle. Thank you, Donna.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was extraordinary. All right, so I'm having problems with Lindsay. She's having a problem with the Google. Let me see if I can give her a call. Give me just a minute while I try and get her. Funny how Google Voice works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. So I will see if I can give her a call, and we'll get her on here in just a few minutes. All right, so let me ask her to, let's see. Let me get her number. So I'll get her number and make this work. So your patience is appreciated out there. I will get her on the phone in just a minute. So patience is a virtue. Oh, wait a minute. Here she comes. It's coming on. Lindsay, are you there? Hi, fellow graduate of Livingston High School.
How are you doing?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Lancers.
The Lancers. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I was shocked. In a good way, Lindsay. I had no idea. And then
Where do you live now?
I'm in outside of Philly.
Okay, and when did you move down there?
I've been here for 25 years. I had gone from Livingston out to Illinois, and then to Houston, and then made my way back up here.
So when did you leave Livingston? What year?
I left Livingston in 78.
Okay. I was born in 77, and I was in high school 92 to 95.
Right.
And my brother graduated in 98. So, yeah, that explains why you didn't know that we were there. That's funny.
I know. But then we find out that we're basically neighbors because I talked to my sister today, and she said to me, East Cedar, and I shouldn't say the name out loud. People will go try and find the house. But East Cedar and Springbrook. I know where it is. It's like neighbors with my parents. Go figure. That's
so
crazy.
funny.
It is, isn't it? That's just
Yeah,
amazing.
small world.
Listen, listen, again, you don't know until you do some research. And hearing, and so Craig Reiner, if you're listening, Craig Reiner, Lindsay's here with me. Shout out to you for being her friend who I found on Facebook.
I told you, Craig Reiner, and he probably remembers this, when he was a substitute when I was in elementary school, if you were bad or whatever, did something that he didn't like, you had to stand in the corner facing the wall with your arms over your head. And that, after like 3 minutes, really starts to hurt.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. But they should do that. Kids would be tougher if Craig Reiner was their substitute all the time.
That is exactly true, because listen, subbing is no fun. I've tried it. It's not fun. I don't care where you go. I actually went, ready. So here's a quick story about me subbing at Mount Pleasant. All right. Was a Mr. Valentino there when you were there, the PE coach?
So Mr. Valentino was at the high school.
Okay.
By the time I was there, yes.
Okay, so I was looking for work in 78 before I went out to the Midwest, and I was called to sub. And I had a friend of mine's father who was a high school principal, Whippany Park, and I got on the list to sub there. I didn't like it because I was high school and they were too old and they scared the crap out of me. But junior high school, I could do that. So it happened to be 78, which is I was still working at camp, and a lot of the kids went to Jeff Lake, were from Livingston. So I get into the junior high school, and these kids know me, and they started calling me Mitch. And I said, oh, you can't do that. I said, you got to call me Mr. Bernstein. Oh, okay, Mitch. No, you can't do that. So I then have lunch. Are you ready for this? So I am all of 5'4", and not even 5'4" then, maybe 5'2", and 120 pounds. And I went out for the football team in ninth grade. And I love football, and I had good hands, and I got in the best shape of my life. And I obviously was going out for a running back position, because who didn't pass in junior high school? And I got cut. So I go in the lunchroom that day, and I say Mr. Valentino. And he says, I said, hey, Mr. Valentino, I said, I hate to bring this up, but I wonder why did you cut me? He says, what, did you want me to get you killed? I said, okay, good point. My mom thanks you. So
clearly the movie Rudy hadn't come out yet. So.
No. Listen, there is no way. But you were a superb athlete. And going back to that, real quick, I want to just give you my quick experience, and I'll let you talk finally. I shouldn't be doing this to guests. But Dale played for Montclair. I remember him playing at South Mountain Arena. And it happened to be one day that Yogi was in the stands. And I was a crazy baseball fan at the time, and I still am. And I was like, but I was too shy. There was no way I was going over there. So 2 kids went over, pointed Yogi out. If it was me back then, now going back then, I would no doubt wait for Yogi to come through the door and just introduce myself. But so I watched Dale play, and then you obviously got a lot of these different skills, genes in that family, right?
So it's funny that you mentioned Grandpa was at Dale's hockey games, because he could never go to anybody's baseball games because he was always on the road,
Right.
coaching or playing himself. So he went to all the winter sports games. He was always at Dale's hockey games, my dad's basketball games, my hockey games growing up. And I played most sports growing up, but obviously I got the softball gene from that side of my family. I played softball at the University of North Carolina. But when I was a kid, my grandfather was best friends with John McMullen, who was the owner of the Houston Astros, but he brought the Colorado Rockies to New Jersey as the Devils in 1982. And Grandpa took me to my first hockey game when I was 5. Right around that time, my parents had just gotten divorced. I was only 5 years old, and my mom couldn't afford to get a babysitter every time she needed to go do her errands. So she would drop my brother and me off at South Mountain Arena, which you just mentioned, with our skates. And, for the public session from 2, she would drop us off at 2 and come back and get us at 4, assuming that the skate guards would watch us for the 2 hours while she did her food shopping. So I learned to skate at the same time Grandpa started taking me to hockey games, and that was kind of all she wrote. So I played hockey at Livingston. I played soccer, ice hockey, and softball at Livingston.
Right, and you're in the, you mentioned that you're in the Hall of Fame there. So congratulations, Lindsay. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
That's really cool. And even back then, Lindsay, when I was in high school, there was no softball team for girls, back in the 70s. And obviously Title IX helped a lot with different things, with girls playing. Did you get any flack at all for playing on the boys hockey team? Did they look at you like
a lot?
You did, okay, yeah. What was that? So what was that like growing up? I'm gonna go towards your career as a journalist in a minute, and because this is kind of like and I found this on Twitter with a lot of the women journalists. It's just a hard thing to get into because it's a man's world. But let's go back to hockey, and you as the captain.
So, I wanted to play, and I had been playing in a bunch of different boys travel leagues and stuff. And when I got to high school, I told Tony Hope, was the athletic director at the time, that I wanted to do it, and he tried to talk me out of it.
He did.
There were no, not in a nasty way, in a and I'm worried about you sort of way.
Okay.
And there was no equivalent sport for girls, so they had to allow me to play if I wanted to. And I wanted to play, and I was pretty good. I was quick and smart and in the right spot at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But even the guys on my team weren't super happy about me being there. I had one guy on the team who used to shoot pucks at my head in practice. But he eventually got over that, and we would go to rinks. We used to play up at McKay Park in Englewood, at Warren Ankle Park, these half outdoor places. And I remember one time my mother shows up in the middle of the first period, and the opposing fans are holding up a bed sheet painted with the words "Check the Chick."
Oh my gosh.
And my mom leaves in tears. But it was interesting. There were definitely the headhunters, and I had a few too many concussions, but I really liked playing hockey. I played varsity softball at University of North Carolina, but I also played men's club hockey for 4 years after that, and then I kept playing up until really pretty consistently up until about 10 years ago. I covered hockey for 13 years at ESPN Magazine, covered the NHL, so it was something that stayed with me for a while.
Definitely in your blood, yeah. It's, and like I just mentioned, so many women, and sometimes you love Twitter and sometimes you don't love Twitter. Pretty much Twitter is where you get all the a lot of negative stuff. So I found so many women, and I want to hear about your journey as a journalist, an MLB correspondent writing for ESPN the magazine. Again, did you have to work harder as a female to get where you were? Do you think?
I do think that, and I don't like that to come off saying like the men didn't work hard, because they did.
Right.
But the women, I do think so, because people always assume that with me, people assumed I had my job because my last name was Vera. Sometimes, who did you know? How did you get they question your motives, and then the way that you got there, and you have to be, twice as smart, twice as quick. When you're in the locker room standing in a scrum and a guy's in a towel, you better keep your eyes straight up, or someone's going to be all over you right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there's a lot more that you have to think about as a female sports journalist than as a male journalist. And then, you better make sure that your stuff is good and not all fluff. And you've got to do your homework.
You got to do your work. You really have to do your work. Exactly. That's what I found out. So you wrote, MLB correspondent, saw some interviews of you. I think it's just a couple years ago on MLB. Got that love from your grandpa and your uncle, I guess, right?
Yeah, and my dad actually played minor league baseball as well. Uncle Timmy played. My Uncle Tim played football for the Baltimore Colts. So we had all the sports in my family. And I was at ESPN Magazine for 13 years, and MLB.com and MLB Network for 5 years. And then I got laid off there in January of 2018, and I've been just freelance for the last 2.5 years.
Right. So I'm going to get to that in a minute, because I have a question for you. On one of those articles you wrote, I read one of those articles today, one of your freelance articles for Men's Health, and I got to ask you about it's. I'll give you a little preface. No ice.
Yep. Yeah. No. Definitely no ice.
Wait a minute.
Unless it's on a hockey rink.
Wait. I got it. All right, exactly. All right. So we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your grandpa.
Sure.
One of the things, I went to the Negro Leagues Museum last week, and I was talking to Bob Kendrick, the president, and you look back, and I didn't see many of these guys play. Obviously, Willie Mays it started there, and Satchel Paige, I don't remember. He wishes he could have spoken and met Satchel Paige. He never had a chance to. From what I hear about Yogi. And Yogi was, and you say he's one of those one name people, right? Yogi, you know who you're talking about. But and I was growing up. I didn't do a lot of research and about the players, and I didn't see Yogi play much. I more managing than anything else. But one thing I got from him and from you and from the players was, after reading some things, what he was just the best guy in the world. So sweet, so endearing. What do you give me your thoughts about what your grandpa was like and what it was like to be around?
So I always tell people that as great as Grandpa was as a baseball player, he really was an even better human. He came to this country, a first-generation Italian immigrant. He was the first of his siblings born here in the United States. His 3 older brothers were born in Italy. He knew what it meant to work for your dinner, and literally he quit school in the 8th grade to help his family. He worked in a shoe factory. His father worked in the brickyards. His brothers worked in the brickyards and waited tables at night. All of his brothers, his older brothers, Grandpa would tell you, were better baseball players than he was, but they all had to work. And by the time it got to him, my Uncle Tony convinced my great-grandfather Pietro to let Grandpa Yogi have a chance, to let one of them have a chance to play baseball. And I think that Grandpa was forever grateful for the sacrifices his brothers made so that he was able to have a chance. And I think he carried that with him his entire life. I think he knew what it was like to be discriminated against as an immigrant, called Dago, called WAP, told he was too small and too ugly to be a baseball player.
Ugly?
So that's what they said. They told him he didn't look like the Yankees, these big ears.
Yeah.
He said, to that he always said, I never saw anyone hit with his face. But when he met Jackie Robinson actually in the minor leagues, and when the black and Latino players started to make their way into the big leagues, Grandpa knew what it felt like to be marginalized at a lesser level than the black players, but he didn't want anyone else to feel like that. So he made a point of, going over, speaking to Jackie, doing what he could to ease that transition, making Jackie feel welcome. I always say he was on the right side of the color line when it wasn't necessarily the right place to be. He just really had this like idea of inclusiveness and treating people with the respect and the dignity that they deserve, no matter where they were from. Again, he was grateful to be in the big leagues. He had just come from the D-Day invasion. He was grateful to be alive, and he really just had that kind of attitude that getting to the big leagues was, and being able to live his life after all that craziness, playing a game that he loved, every day of that was a gift to him, and that was the way he behaved.
Yeah.
So
it just seemed he was, again, like you said, he was just so thankful to be where he was. The war, coming back, and then obviously family was huge, and to be able to raise the boys, and then the grandkids came, and reading a little excerpt from you about what it was like, to have Yogi as your grandpa, not necessarily Yogi the baseball player, but the grandpa. You never really knew that. He was always just grandpa, right? Until you figured out what was going on, because you were old enough.
Yeah, by the time I was old enough to realize who Yogi Berra really was, he'd already been grandpa for so long that it was kind of hard to rationalize. I still look at like his stats and some of the records that he still holds, and that 1950 year when he struck out 12 times, and I think, that was when I say my grandpa struck out 12 times in 1950, it's like, what? But I know he did, and he's amazing. He was a little guy, and he was able to catch 140, 150 games a year, and still hit home runs and drive-in runs. He was great on both sides of the plate. He really was a tremendous catcher, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
No, he doesn't. I don't think. And I, again, looking at the stats before when I knew you were coming on. I didn't know it either. The 10 Worlds. I mean, listen, the Yankees always won, but he's the only one that's got that many rings. It's amazing to me. It's just absolutely amazing. Like I said, only striking out 12 times in the season. Are you kidding me? So yes, it's hard to say underrated, but maybe needs to be more known at some point. I don't know how you do that.
Here's the example that I always give people. The 2015 MLB All-Star Game. They had what they called the 4 best living players on the field at the All-Star Game. And it was Sandy Koufax, Hank Aaron, Johnny Bench, and Willie Mays. And I was sitting there watching this game with my grandfather on television. And I looked at him and I said, Grandp, are you dead yet? And he's like, not yet. And I said, you've got more World Series than these 4 guys combined.
Yeah.
And Major League Baseball has chosen them as the 4. So the league itself didn't even recognize Grandpa at that point as one of the 4 greatest living players, or at least put him up there and make it 5.
Yeah, exactly.
That's ridiculous.
So what was
10 World Series, played in 14 of them, 3 MVP awards, was in 18 All-Star games.
Yep.
He has these ridiculous stats, like he caught both ends of doubleheaders 117 times in his career. And then the other one that I love, there's only 2 players in history to have more than 350 home runs and fewer than 500 strikeouts, and it's Grandpa and Joe DiMaggio. And people don't ever put him in the same sentence as Joe DiMaggio.
You're right. That's exactly right. Those are the stats that, oh my gosh, yeah, it's cool. Listen, that's why I think, like the Negro Leagues, give them some recognition, and we're going to get to the museum in a minute, but let more people know about this museum that we can go visit.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about him, so how did he, so he was humble though, right? So was a fire? Did you light a fire when you were watching that particular situation, or did he just? That's the way it is. Who cares?
No, he was very much. It's the way it is. If people didn't want to remember, he was like, that's their problem. Grandpa never did the things he did because he thought it was going to earn him recognition. He just did his best every day because it was who he was. So yeah, it was funny. We started a campaign to get him the Presidential Medal of Freedom on his 90th birthday, and he wasn't awarded it until after he had passed. And I was so sad about it, but that was the same thing that I said to myself then. Grandpa wasn't the person he was because he thought someone was going to give him a medal. He would have been that way no matter what. So the hardware was just an accessory, you know.
Right.
Not that he wasn't proud of it. He was proud of his World Series rings, but he was more proud of it in that, like, when you asked him to talk about his own performances during World Series, he would always inevitably say, oh, Mickey hit this amazing home run, or Scooter made this great play. He always would start talking about the team. He never wanted to talk about himself.
Right.
And he looked back at those things as just these really cool accomplishments he had with his buddies. It was never about him.
Not just you, but from reading the stuff prior to you coming on, he was just like anybody, like all of us who love the game of baseball, who, like him, who got to play it. He played it for the love of the game. He loved his teammates. He managed, and I remember reading about when he was fired from the Mets 16 games in, and the players gave him a standing ovation at the bus or at the hotel or something.
Yeah, the Yankees in 1985.
Oh, it was Yankees. Okay. I mean, that goes to show you what kind of a guy, how respected he was, which especially amongst the players too.
Yeah.
So, Lindsay, did he ever talk about the real? For example, the perfect game with Don Larson? Did he ever talk about those types of situations that were really cool and historic?
You had to ask him very specific questions to get him to talk about things, but you could get him to do it. And then I had the opportunity, this was very cool, when ESPN Classic first started in the 90s, I forget what year it was, the very first thing they showed was the perfect game. So I got to sit there and watch that game with Grandpa, which was, and that was like a way to get him talking, because he remembered, and like he'll say, look at this pitch here, or watch this play coming up, like it would jar his memory. So you could get him to talk about stuff, but he was pretty. You could say like, hey, how did you pitch Harmon Killebrew or something, and he would remember. Like he would remember sequences he used. Like it was pretty cool. And he was smart. Like watching a baseball game with him, like he would pick up on these little things that you'd be like, how the hell did he see that? But he was, and it's funny. A lot of the players. You talk to like Derek Jeters and Nick Swishers and Jorge Posadas of the world, who talk about sitting with him on the bench during spring training, and the stuff that he would notice would just blow their mind. So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I would. Yes, you can't get enough of that. I mean, I'm sure they because he was around for so long, in such an iconic era, of these teams and of his teammates and these players. I mean, listen, I grew up in the 60s. I was born in 55, so at 64, when I was 9, right? And it was just watching these guys play. I was always say, Lindsay, that I would so look forward to, because they used to have one game a week that you would watch. It was the Saturday game of the week with Kurt Gowdy as the announcer. And it was so much fun to know that was coming on, because every team at that time, and at the time there were only 20 teams, it was 10 in each league, had such iconic players like the Harmon Killebrews, the Yogis, the Mickeys, the I can't think of that, Yastrzemskis. I mean, just every team had several special Hall of Fame players, and it was just so much fun to watch. Not as much right now. So let's get into what it is like. What's it like for you right now, and what would your grandpa say about the game right now?
You know what? I often think what my grandpa would say about everything that's going on right now, and I always come back to the Yogiism. The future ain't what it used to be. It's funny. Today, I mean, we look a lot of the situations that are happening with games with guys today, with this, how much they favor home runs, with how strikeouts have become completely okay and an acceptable side effect of the pursuit of home runs, and the sort of abandonment of small ball, and the amount of money they're paying guys, and just the stuff that players say about each other. Like, a lot of that stuff bugged him a lot, because he was a very put your head down, do your work and do what you need to do to help the ball club. And if it's a single instead of a home run, then that's fine. As far as what he would say about playing in front of no fans, I mean, I think Grandpa, as much as anyone, recognized the ability of baseball to touch people and unite people, and I think that he would think it was important that they were trying. I think he'd be a little bit disappointed that the Cardinals were in casinos and the Marlins were in strip clubs, because that's not helping the situation. I think he'd be happy that they're trying, because I think he understands, especially after coming back to baseball after World War II, what the game itself can do to heal a country. So, yeah, I think he'd be happy.
Yeah. And so let me get your thoughts. So, what are you thinking? I've had several folks on the show. Jared Diamond wrote a book called Swing Kings to document the way that the launch angle and exit velocity are working, and it's real and it's going to stay. I don't like it, and maybe it's more personal to me because Rhys Hoskins really sucked last year, the second half of the season, because our coaches were not that knowledgeable and they screwed his swing up, but. So all of that, and listen, they would play with shift. They would do shifts every once in a while. McCovey would have a shift, and all these big players, even in the 70s, they would shift, but not like they do now. Bryce Harper, one of the 3 games the Phillies played, he actually laid down a bunt on the opposite side, to the opposite side, to the left side. I didn't see it. I saw it in the replay. I was like, why don't we do more of this? Why don't we hit to the opposite side? No one's there.
Because they don't have the skills now. The fundamentals have been kind of fallen by the wayside in the pursuit of the long ball. And that's the part that I understand that home runs are important, and I understand that the game has evolved. But I still believe that if you are the best hitter in baseball, or among the best hitters in baseball, you should be able to go with a pitch and hit the ball the other way, especially if it's an outside pitch. Just do it. Just go where it wants you to go. Put the bat on the ball. And I also, look, the analytics, I worked at MLB. I've seen them do them. It's all super interesting, and there's a lot that you can take away from them.
Right.
But the one thing, and they think analytically that a strikeout doesn't matter so much. I still think that any ball put in play at least has a chance to do something, whereas a strikeout, you put your bat down, you drag it back to the bench, and you've done nothing.
So here's my argument.
There's no potential
Lindsay,
for a strikeout.
Lindsay, thank you for saying this. Here's my argument. Okay, Gabe Kaplan did this all the time last year, and people were agreeing with him. So you're at the bottom of the 9th. It's a tie game. Okay, man on first, nobody out. He walks. What are you doing hitting the ball and not getting the guy to sacrifice the freaking out? Now you have a guy in scoring position. What's the worst that can happen? Which pretty much happened a lot. You hit into a freaking double play, and guess what? Now you're in worse shape. Don't you think it's better to have a shot at a single, not a double? We're talking a single to score the winning run.
I know. I'm a big fan of the small ball, but it's just not what they're thinking about nowadays. It's a different game.
It's so annoying.
They say there's that quote, they say baseball's the only thing since the paperclip that hasn't changed, but really it has. It's changed quite a bit.
Too much. But unfortunately, you and I now we can commiserate, okay? Because I love the fact that you agree with me, because not many people do. So I love that fact, but. Listen, the DH coming to the National League, it was inevitable. It's going to happen. Okay, fine. Let it be. I'm not going to fight City Hall. That's the way it is. I love the fact that pitchers could they learn how to bunt. Gone. Not going to happen. Very frustrating. Yeah. Okay, let's get to a couple.
Before we have to go, I definitely want to talk about the museum.
No, for sure. Yeah.
What I was going to say, and my little segue was going to be, if you want to see the way the game used to be played, come and visit us at the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center.
Well, where is that, Lindsay?
This is on the campus of Montclair State University in Little Falls, New Jersey. We've been around for a little over 20 years now, and we have all of Grandpa's cool stuff, 3 MVP plaques. We actually have his 10 World Series rings, but we have all 27 Yankees World Series rings on display. We have gloves and jerseys and all kinds of memorabilia, bats. We have this interactive pitching display that you can play with. But above all, we are a learning center. So we do character education programs for elementary school, middle school, up through high school kids. We have a STEM education program, a civil rights program, a character education program. We do a spoken word program based on Grandpa's yogiisms. And right now, you just mentioned Bob Kendrick at the Negro League Museum. We have an exhibit on loan from the Negro League Museum in Kansas City called Discovered Greatness. It is commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Negro League. The museum is currently closed due to COVID, but the entire Discovered Greatness exhibit is online at our website, which is www.yogiberramuseum.org. We did 60 online field trips for school kids in May and June.
Nice.
So if anybody's got kids and wants their elementary, middle school to participate in one of our programs, you can find the information on our website. And once the museum is open again, we'd love to have everybody come in to check out all the memorabilia and participate in our events and programs that, teach people about Grandpa's great career and, forward his legacy as a terrific human being as well.
Yeah, I think the key there, Lindsay, is those character values. If you go on the website, like Lindsay just said, yogiberramuseum.org, look at the pictures, and you look in the background, and you've got these very interesting, cool words that are placed all around the museum that are values words, character education words. That's what Yogi was about. That's what he was about. He professed that, and that's important. Lindsay, if I wanted to, so what I'll do, I'll check out, because I work at a private school, but it's got a lower school too and a middle school. I will, when school starts, I will check with the principals and let them know I think that's something. Again, there's so much to offer there. That they might be interested in doing that. So I'm going to do that to push that because it's important.
We even have, there are some also educational tools for teachers online where we've already created the lesson plans for you that you can use our multimedia stuff to teach these capsules yourself. And there are lessons on race, immigration, gender equity, financial literacy, all taught through the lens of baseball.
That's awesome. Cool. That's great. That's just the whole picture, basically. You're giving the whole character, the whole person. Real quick, your freelance article about No Ice.
No Ice, yeah. I actually started reporting this story like 2.5 years ago for the body issue of ESPN magazine, and it ended up not running there. It ran in Men's Health first, and then I actually just a baseball skewed version of the story just ran today on the American Baseball Coaches Association website. So in a nutshell, we ice injuries because in 1978, Gabe Merkin, who was a Harvard doctor, coined the term the Rice Protocol in his book on sports medicine. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation became the way to treat sports injuries. At the time, inflammation was not even in the researched literature. So as science evolved and we realized how necessary the inflammatory response is to healing, and when you ice and constrict vessels and delay that inflammatory response, you actually, not only do you delay healing, but you can actually cause additional damage to tissues that were not damaged by your activity. Gabe Merkin, who invented the Rice Protocol, he's now 85 years old. He lives in the Villages retirement community down north of Orlando, and he blogs and talks to anyone who will listen to him and says he was wrong about rest and ice. The best thing to do when you hurt yourself is to move. So even if you have a sprained ankle or you're super sore, light movement, loading the damaged tissue is the way to pump out the waste that goes in there when you're, that happens when you're, breaking tissue and then you have to clear it all out. Movement is the way you get the growth factors and the proteins that you need to rebuild the muscles into the area. When you ice, everything just stagnates. So, like I said, there's a story in Men's Health that I did, and there's a story on the American Baseball Coaches Association website right now. They're all on my Twitter at lindsayberra.com. You can check it out. But your father, when your dad told you to walk it off, he was 100% right. Walk it off.
Yeah, Lindsay, that was it. That's interesting. I mean, everybody should go check that out. Lindsay, go to lindsaybarrett.com and check on her work. It's there, and you'll find the article. It's very interesting. And those of us, we all grew up with rice. So, change in protocol, probably, right?
Science. Yay, science.
Yay, science. Hello. We believe. Lindsay, listen, I'll let you go. I appreciate you taking your time to be with me here. I was so excited that you're a fellow graduate. I couldn't believe it. That's just the icing on the cake. You're so nice to come on and talk. It's so nice to talk to you. I look forward to the time when I can meet you in person, and thank you, because I really appreciate what you've done and coming on tonight, talking about your grandpa, learning about you and the museum, and talking baseball, which is great. So I really thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And when everything is opened up again, please come visit the museum. I'd love to walk you through.
I would love to do that. Absolutely, we'll do it. And I pretty much know where it is. That's great.
Yeah, it's very easy to find on the Google.
Yes, it is. It is very, very easy. All right, Lindsay, stay healthy. And again, thanks so much. And at some point we will meet.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thanks. Take care now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Very informative was Lindsay about everything. Appreciate all the information she talked about her grandpa, Yogi Berra, and talking about baseball, talking about growing up being a woman in sports, a woman athlete, journalist. It's not that easy. Unfortunately, the women have to prove a little bit more than the men do. Again, not that the men don't work hard, but the fact that women have to work harder to prove themselves. So that's an unfortunate situation, and hopefully it does get better, and it continues to get better. And there are men that are out there that are good, that are supportive. I've read articles about women reporters and how they have some really great mentors that are men, and that's awesome. So thank you, Lindsay. We'll be in touch, fellow Livingston Lancer. All right, let's move to the current state of baseball. Baseball. Let's see, where are we at? So I'm looking at. It's interesting watching the games played, and who's doing well and who isn't. So just a quick review of what's happening if you're not paying attention. So we'll start with the American League first. The Yankees are 8-1. Everything is going well for them. They scored 51 runs in 9 games, which isn't a whole heck of a lot, but their run differential is a plus 17. So they've only let 34 runs score in 9 games. The Orioles are in second place. Go figure. Let's see what happens when 1/6 of the season is done with the Orioles. They're at 5-3. Rest of the division is close, except for those darn Red Sox. What's happening with those Red Sox? They don't have pitching. Their bullpen isn't that good, so that's a problem for them. Hitting the Central, the Twins are 9-2. They have scored in 11 games 58 runs. They're a little over 5.5 runs per game. And in 11 games, they've only given up 31. So they have a run differential for plus 27. So they're pitching well and they're hitting well. The White Sox have a potent lineup. They're 2.5 games behind. Tigers, Indians, and Royals bring up the rear there, middle and rear of that division. In the West, no real surprises except I've watched some of the Astros games, and it looks like banging the drum slowly isn't happening, and that's what's happening to their run production. Even though they're at plus 11, I have not seen their stars hitting quite like they should. So Oakland's up up at 6-4. The Astros are at 5-4. Then you have Texas, Seattle, and the Angels. Again, there are only 3 games separating them from the top, as opposed to the Central. The Royals are 6 games out already, and the Red Sox are 5.5 out. Going to the National League East, where the Phillies have played a whopping 4 games. And according to the standings, they're only 2.5 out. Nobody is taking advantage except the Braves, and the Braves are 7-4. So they are they're only at a plus 12 differential for their runs. So again, they're getting some pitching, they're getting some hitting. They've scored again a little more than 5.5 runs a game, at 59 runs in 11 games. So they're scoring, but their pitching isn't as good. Soroka now is out. If you saw that, that was too bad last night, tearing his Achilles. So good for the Phillies. They need some breaks. But let's see, the Marlins are 2-1. They've only played 3 games, but they're only 1 game behind. Go figure. The Nationals are 3-4. The Phillies are 1-3. Look at that run production. 4 games, they've scored 18 runs. Good for them. No. And then the Mets, with that lineup, they've only scored 4 runs per game, which isn't bad, but they've given up 60 in 11 games. So obviously they're minus 15. So time will tell. See what happens with that division. The Central Division, the Cubbies are playing well. Again, not a bunch of offense. They have a plus 12 run differential. Reds are 5-5. The Brewers 3-4. The Cardinals 2-3, and they're not playing for a while. And then Pittsburgh is at 2-9, so they're already 6.5 games out. So I don't think they're going to go anywhere. And then the National League West. You've got not the Dodgers, but they're close. They're only a game out. So you got the Rockies at 7-2. The Padres and the Dodgers are 7-4. Giants 5-6 hanging in there, and the Diamondbacks at 4-5. Diamondbacks in 10 games have scored 27 runs. That's not going to get them anywhere. So their offense needs to pick it up. The Dodgers have a great. Their offense is okay. Again, 58 runs, 11 games, 5.5 runs per game. But their pitching is really good. Their defense is good. They've only scored 20, given up 29 runs. They have a plus 29 run differential. So that's a quick rundown on baseball right now. We shall see how everything goes. Seems like the Cardinals, the Marlins, Phillies had no cases. Let's hope that's all we see for the next couple of months, and they stay relatively safe, and nobody gets sick with COVID, and they can play these games, finish the regular season, and then go to the playoffs, and then the World Series. And even though I kept going back and forth, asterisk, no asterisk, yeah, it's an asterisk. I mean, they're only playing 60 games, so there will be a winner. And there will be awards given out, but it's not the same. But at least we're playing now. All right. Next on the agenda. So I went to as you may know, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. Had worked this out to coincide pretty well with my daughter leaving from St. Louis. I was going to leave from St. Louis. She went back to California. Sarah, if you're listening, hi. Hope everything's good. So I ended up flying to Kansas City, staying in a hotel, rented a car. It was a beautiful thing. It worked out perfectly. And I got to the museum at 10 o'clock, right when it opened. Was lucky enough to get set up early and got my tour. I took my own self-guided tour of the museum. Great to meet Phil S. Dixon. Phil is celebrating his anniversary tonight. Congratulations to Phil and his wife. I saw that on Facebook. But Phil has an author of at least 9 books about the Negro Leagues. So Phil came in and we were masked and we talked a lot about the Negro Leagues and some great pictures I got. Some It's a great story Bob Kendrick told me about. I think his name is Geddy Lee from Rush. I think is a baseball fan, and he got about 200 signed baseballs from Negro League players in an auction, and he gave them to Bob Kendrick, and they're at the museum now. Bob didn't know how many balls he had. He was thinking maybe 5, 10. Well, then Geddy Lee comes in with like 200. So there's a picture I took, a pano of the balls, and they're just pristine white condition, and they're signed, and it's just awesome. Learn the history of the museum. The replicas of their Hall of Fame plaques, those are the guys in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, have plaques there and uniforms in display cases. And then you have the Field of Legends, where they have all of these statues of the best players in each position with nameplates. Well, I decided, let's have a giveaway. So I took a picture of every one of those players with the nameplate, except for one. And I said, let's have a contest. And Kelsey, my social media manager, said, okay, let's do that. I said, here's the picture. Let's see if anybody can identify this player. Son of a gun, if several people did. So thanks to those of you who entered the contest for this. Not huge prizes, but I figured let's make it a little fun and look at a little magnet, Field of Dream. Negro Leagues Museum magnet and a little bat keychain, so I can announce the winner of the contest. The statue player was Buck Leonard. And if this individual is listening, please feel free to give me a call. 484-693-0465, and we could talk about your winnings. Excuse me. And then if not, we'll get you to DM your address. And the winner is at Baseball Traveler. Congratulations. You were correct. It was, as I said, Buck Leonard. And you are the winner of the contest. So again, feel free to call me now if you are available to do that. 484-693-0465. You could be traveling because your handle on Twitter is Baseball Traveler. And if you're not listening and you don't call, we'll get you a message to DM me your address, and I can get those prizes out to you as soon as possible. So in addition to going to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and I recommend it to everybody out there who's a baseball fan, who's an American history fan, get to the museum. It's awesome. The history of the Negro League starting in 1920 started at the YMCA. And as I drove into the museum, the big YMCA letters were facing me before I turned left to get to the museum. And that was awesome because I knew the history. And so in the museum, there are the Articles of Incorporation for the Negro National League that was set up in that building by Rube Foster and 8 other gentlemen who entrepreneurial enough to organize the league and get the Negro Leagues going. And then on the other side of the coin, on the other side of the building, Bob told me to go to the south side of the building, which I did when I left. There's a huge mural out there of, I should know, I don't remember who it is, but I'm so glad that he did. I'll post those pictures too if I haven't done that yet, so you can see the murals that were drawn on the south side of that YMCA building where the Negro League started. So before I got to Negro Leagues, I actually took a trip to the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa. It was my second time there for me and my daughter, who she remembered a little bit of it, but my brother-in-law came with me, and Steve had a great time. Took a lot of pictures, took several fun videos, and we were lucky enough to be visited by some Ghost players, and they are now part of my profile picture on Twitter. So if you go to my not the Burn with Mitch. No, let me check. Let me check. I got to figure out where I put this now. I believe, is it on Facebook? Yeah, it's my Facebook. It's on my Facebook account. It's my profile picture. Me walking out of the corn with my brother-in-law, my daughter, and 2 Ghost players who were there. So that was really, really cool. Totally enjoyed that. So we have, when you get to the Field of Dreams now, there's a tour that you can take of the house, the White Farmhouse. The porch swing is not the original, but we sat in the porch, and you went in the house. They have signed balls by the cast, and they have, one of them is James Earl Jones, and I actually got to field some. There were some guys out there, older guys. I was shagging baseballs, and it was just awesome. Don't tell anybody either, but I actually did pick up some grass and some dirt and put it in a plastic bag, and it's here with me now. Who knows that I shouldn't have done that. So I have to find a little vial that I could label Field of Dreams Dirt and Grass. So we're going to have another giveaway contest. There was a very, very interesting piece of trivia that was offered. And my social media manager just texted me, and do not say, Kelsey, I don't know what you mean. But Kelsey, you can text me. Are you going to put the picture up at some point before the show is over in 14 minutes? Just say yes or no, and let me know if I can when I should lead people to that. Okay. So the Field of Dreams was awesome. Again, great place to go with family, baseball families. There were all sorts of people there, age-wise. It was just awesome. It's just, and the first time I went, there were thousands of people because Kevin Costner was there, and his band was playing, and the movie Field of Dreams was playing, and there was always huge publicized events. A week ago Wednesday, 2 weeks ago Wednesday, maybe 35 people there. It was the best. And unfortunately, if you didn't hear, they have canceled the game that would have taken place at Dyersville, at the Field of Dreams. You know, they're building this field. They were supposed to play August the 13th. Yankees and White Sox, and now it was going to be the Cardinals and the White Sox, and now there's no game. So hopefully next year they're going to run with that, and they have a lot. There's a lot planned for the Field of Dreams. They're going to, unfortunately, over-commercialize it. I guess they got to bring in money, but they're going to make all sorts of fields for kids to play, a tournament destination in the Midwest. So it's pretty cool. They're going to put hotels up, and that's pretty cool too. So get out to the Field of Dreams, get out to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in the Midwest. You'll have a great time. Stay tuned on Twitter and Instagram, I think, where my daughter will be posting the giveaway. She just texted me that. So pay attention to that. We're going to take entries until next week. I believe Monday. All correct answers, you'll get a Field of Dreams little Field of Dreams trinket. All right, so before we go, stay tuned to Captain Lou. Captain Lou, if you want to direct message me who you got coming up on your show, feel free to do so. I'll push that out there for folks to stick around and listen. So we got hockey coming back. Hockey's back. It is fun to watch. I've been watching. My Rangers are playing today. I guess they're playing right now. I'm going to go check and see how they're doing. They're going to possibly get eliminated. They look terrible. Second period the other night against the Hurricanes, they look just awful. I don't think they play until 8 o'clock. Yeah, they don't start until 8. So I guess if they lose this next game, they're down 2-0. They'll be, I think they're eliminated. It's a qualifying game. So that's happening. Basketball's playing. They're in that bubble. Haven't heard of many people getting sick, and that's a good thing. So we'll see what happens there. And it seems to be working in Orlando. I'm looking forward to seeing that nobody gets sick and they can play, which is going to be an awesome thing for the NBA. Really, really happy for the NBA to do that. So we have baseball, NBA, hockey, and then football. Doug Peterson, the coach of the, like I said at the beginning of the show, coach of the Eagles, has COVID. Not sure that football has it all figured out yet. Training camp starting in a couple of weeks. And I don't know that the NFL knows what they're doing with crowds and things just yet. Are they going to push the season back? Preseason games, not so much. So it's going to be interesting to follow that story as we go forward the next couple of weeks in this month of August to find out what kind of protocols the NFL has. They can opt out until Thursday. And then I guess I have to read up more on that, but if they don't opt out, they're in, I'm guessing. So, tonight, oh my gosh, holy mackerel, that's right. So, folks, baseball fans, please stick around for Real Captain Lou Gamblin' Show. After mine at 8 o'clock, you've got Larry Figursky, WOOD TV Sports Director, coming on at 8:05. And then, are you ready for this? Fred Lynn, former Boston Red Sox player, will be on with Lou at 8:30. Wow, that's awesome. He's going to talk, obviously, MLB in the 70s and 80s and a heck of a lot more. So stay tuned to that. And I have an announcement in a few minutes about who's coming on my show next week, which is going to be pretty cool, too. Don't want to overshadow Lou. No, I'm not going to. This is not a competition. This is a teamwork here. But I got another believe it or not, former Red Sox player coming on next week. So that's great. Stick around for Lou at 8 o'clock on 12 Ounce Sports, because he's got Larry Figursky, if I'm pronouncing that right, sports director for WOOD TV. And he's coming on right as soon as Lou gets on. And at 8:30, the one and only Fred Lynn, who, if you haven't seen pictures of him, he looks great. He could probably still play. Former Boston Red Sox player and really talented, really good Red Sox player will be on talking to Lou at 8:30 Eastern Time. So stick around for that. All right. As we get ready to finish up, I do need to thank some people. And if they're not listening, you know who I'm thanking. Craig Purcell from the Field of Dreams was a guest on the show a little while ago. He helped me, not that he gave me anything for free, but he was the one who helped me get to the right people at the Field of Dreams for the tour. That was great. Bob Kendrick at the Negro League Museum, Phil Dixon at the Negro League Museum came to talk to me. That was awesome. Want to thank my guests tonight. Maybelle, Blair, terrific. Such a fun person to talk to. 93 years old. Oh my gosh. If I have that much energy at 93, I'm going to love it. And then Shirley Berkovich. Shirley played 3 years, one of those years with the Rockford Peaches. And both ladies just love playing baseball. And it's just so much fun. And I'm going to do my darndest to see how we can get more girls playing baseball. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but I think when I move and retire to Wilmington, North Carolina, providing they're not underwater, I will be helping them get some girls baseball going. Look forward to doing that. Lindsay Barra, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Craig Reiner, if you're listening, thank you for giving me that information. Any family members, thank you for listening. Appreciate it very much. And wanted to... wait a minute, what was I thinking? Oh my gosh, just one of the things that happens before you you have a thought and it goes away. Yes. And then, 12 Ounce Sports. We have a great crew. Some new shows are making headway, doing well. We appreciate your patronage, your listening and watching. Like I said, on Zingo TV. Download that app on your television, your smart TV. It's like a Netflix type thing. Hulu. Go to 12 Ounce Sports. That app. Find 12 Ounce Sports on the guide, and you can sign in. Download Zingo. Use promo code 12OZ when signing up, and you'll be able to listen to everything and watch everything that 12 Ounce Sports has for you. So appreciate those guys. Great team. It was fun for me when I was out in Illinois to do the MLB preview show. We had a great listening audience. It was exciting to see. Was honored to be able to be on there, talk about the National League East. Lou and Mike did a great job. So, gentlemen, terrific. You guys looked spiffy, too. That was awesome. That's pretty much it for this week. Next week. So, Donna Cohen, if you're still listening, thank you for getting Maybell and Shirley. So, Donna is a representative for those two ladies, and she's also representative for a gentleman who's coming on next week, who used to pitch for the Boston Red Sox, Louis Tiant. Louis Tiant from Cuba. And Cat Williams. I believe Cat is the executive director of the International Women's Baseball Center. She wrote a book about Lefty Alvarez, and Lefty was also from Cuba, so Cat will be on talking about that, and Louis will be on talking about his exploits from Cuba to Major League Baseball. So I really look forward to it. As Lou is looking forward to talking to a former major leaguer, I am also. Can't wait to talk to Louis. Talk about that unique wind-up. If you haven't seen it, you're not familiar with Louis Tiant, go Google him and check out his wind-up and tell me how you think he pitched all those years with that kind of a wind-up when he really didn't look at the plate until his head turned around. Go check that out. It's pretty awesome. And Cat Williams. And then we also have, let me find this real quick for you so you can put this on your calendar for next week's show. So we have Louis Tiant and Cat Williams. And also coming on my show next week, that is August the 11th, is Ryan Woodard. Ryan is with the International Women's Baseball Center, and Ryan's going to talk more about women in baseball. And we have one more guest coming up, not confirmed yet, so I won't let you know until we post those things next week at the 6:20 slot. So next week, the Burn with Mitch on 12 Ounce Sports, at 7 o'clock, Louis Tiant and Cat Williams. 7:30, Ryan Woodard of the International Women's Baseball Center. And it's a pleasure to be able to be here on Tuesdays now for the next several weeks. Okay, that about does it for me. Don't forget to stick around for Captain Lou Extravaganza. Freddie Lynn will be on at 8:30 in about 32 minutes from now, talking about baseball back in the 70s and 80s, and I'm sure Lou's going to talk to him about baseball right now. And don't forget, if you're interested, please go to mybookie.ag. Go on there if you're interested in applying some money and betting, and golf is there. Golf is being played. The PGA is this weekend. It's going to be awesome. Tiger's coming back. Put some money on that. They'll match your deposit up to $1,000 when you use 12OZ Sports when signing up. So use promo code 12OZ Sports when signing up on mybookie.ag to get your deposit matched up to $1,000. Go have fun with that. All right, friends, thank you very much. Captain Lou follows me immediately at 8 o'clock. It's been a real pleasure. Enjoyed it. Continue to stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. And we will talk to you next week. Coming up in just a moment, the Captain Lou Extravaganza on 12-Ounce Sports. Everybody have a great week. Take care now. Bye-bye.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on 12-Ounce Sports and here on Twitch, channel 761, and all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, YouTube. Yours truly, Captain Lou, with you back from vacation. Feeling great. Glad to be with you here tonight, and it's going to be an awesome show. A great way to kick off post-vacation. We've got a stacked lineup. This first hour is going to be awesome. Coming up in about 3 or 4 minutes right now, we're going to be joined by Larry Figurski. He is the color commentator for the Grand Rapids Griffins, local sports director for Channel 8 out of Grand Rapids. Him and I go way back. We were college friends back in the 80s. We worked at the same college radio station, but Larry was the recipient of the 2020 Jim Ellery Award as the AHL, the American Hockey League's Media Person of the Year. And we're going to talk to Larry about that here shortly. Then coming up at the bottom of the hour, fired up to be able to bring you a legend in Boston Red Sox history, the first American League MVP and Rookie of the Year in the same year, 1975. Freddie Lynn's going to join us at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to talk a little bit about baseball back in the 70s and 80s, what it was like to play with those Boston Red Sox teams going up against the Big Red Machine back in the day, back in the 70s, in an epic 7-game World Series. If for those of you that were around back then, I got to tell you, that to me still is the best World Series that they were ever able to produce. I think 5 one-run games, including that epic Game 6, the Carlton Fisk 12th inning home run. So Fred's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Really looking forward to that. So we got a stacked first hour, a stacked show tonight as well. We're going to talk NHL. The bubble has started. They are the epitome of doing it the right way. No negative or no positive test for COVID-19, and they've had some great games. The NBA is underway, and so far so good for them. They're finishing up their regular season, and they've had some great games there as well. And Major League Baseball, they're underway. It's been fractured. We've had some knuckleheads really do some crazy things. You know, the St. Louis Cardinals, the latest ones, they haven't played in, 7 or 8 days, and it's going to be at least until the end of the week for them. The Miami Marlins, I think, are going to play tonight. I'll have to check the scoreboard later on, but we'll get into that and give you my feeling on that as well. The NFL with their opt-outs, it's crunch time for them. They're starting back up here shortly. It's going to be a couple of weeks. Actually, I think next week they're going to start reporting to training camp, and we're going to see if they can get everything off and going without a hitch. The PGA Championship, the first major for the PGA golf season, set to get underway this weekend, and Tiger Woods is going to be there. They're going to have a stacked lineup, And to get the best on that, by the way, check out the Vegas Squares podcast. It'll be dropping here this week, I believe tomorrow. And Aaron, he does a fantastic job. He is your go-to guy for all the answers on, if you want to bet a few shackles on mybookie.ag, you might want to check him out as well. And we're going to talk about that and just college football. The conferences, the Power Fives are starting to give their plans. We'll run down that for you as well in the second hour of the show. Lots to talk about. It was a nice week off last week for me, getting to sit outside. You know what the crazy thing is? I didn't turn the TV on in 8 days. And one of my friends he turned the TV on Sunday about an hour before I left to watch the end of the first Tiger game in that doubleheader against the Reds. Other than that, I did not turn a TV on. I couldn't tell you the last time that I could say I wasn't in front of a television set for more than a couple of days. Even if I've been on vacation before, I've turned it on and watched little bits of ball games or whatnot, but I didn't turn the TV on. I sat in front of the lake. I listened to a few of our shows and listened to hockey and some baseball on the radio, and I'll tell you, it brought back great memories. And it was great to get away, get recharged, but spending some time up in northern Michigan and just getting fired up for sports. And right now, we talked about it all summer here on the show, and it's one of those things where you in May and June you thought, I just don't know if this is going to happen or not. And Larry's going to call us here shortly. I guess I typed the wrong number in. And I tell you, that's what happens when you try to do text messages in a hurry. So I think Larry's going to try to call right now. So we'll get him on the phone here shortly. It's 2020. What can you, it's just one of those years. Well, anyways, speak of the devil, there he is. Let's get him on the horn right now. Let's go to our guest line here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Larry, I got to tell you, Larry Figurski is going to join us. Man, it's 2020. Leave it to me to type the wrong number in. How are you, big fella?
I am well, Lou. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. As funny as the first thing I thought of, I remember you and I talking when at a Griffins game a couple of years ago, and you said, man, we used to do a show together back in our college days.
Yeah.
Larry, it's been 35 years. Can you believe that?
Yes, I can. That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That was at WCHP.
Yes.
So that would be early to mid-'80s, right? I got out of there in 86. I graduated. How about you?
I got out of there in 88. I took a year off. I had to, I took a couple of side jobs and get a little more serious about the classroom. And I then came back and graduated a year later. But, yeah, who would have thought, Larry, back in 85, we're sitting there in the basement of ANSPA having to worry about a season being interrupted, all our sports, by this COVID madness. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, it certainly is. And, I've been doing sports for so long, so it's just it's strange. Yeah, it's 32nd year in TV for me. You mentioned 35 since we were out of school, and it's strange. It's unprecedented, but it's affecting everybody and everything in some way or another. And sometimes the sports is pretty trivial when you think about it, Lou, and then at other times you see how important it really is to society. I mean, when's the last time you went to a place and had 80,000 people all cheering for the same thing? You know what I mean? But it's a great thing. It's a great diversion. It's always been a great diversion when, we've needed it in America. And it's just been strange without it. At least we do have, the bubbles seem to be working for the NHL and the NBA.
Yeah, they definitely do, Larry. And speaking of hockey, I wanted to get everybody to know you are the recipient this year of the Jim Ellery Award as AHL Media Person of the Year. And that's a fantastic achievement. I know your tag team partner, Bob Kaiser, you both do a fantastic job with the Griffins. He's won it. But talk a little bit about that, Larry. That's such a great achievement for you.
Yeah, that's a great honor. And there's, in all honesty, Lou, you know how many people are out there doing it. So there's a lot of people who really are worthy of winning that. I don't really know how they decide every year, but yeah, it's a great honor. And you know that I love the game and have even more of I guess I'd say an emotional tie to the Griffins, working for them and calling games for 22 years. And, I see the Griffins from the inside out in some ways. So yeah, it's a great honor. I really appreciate it and thankful, but I know there's a lot of people that, could have gotten that this year as well.
So you've been with the Griffins, if I'm not mistaken, since 2000 in various roles. And, boy, the game even in the last 20 years, Larry, has changed a lot. But obviously some of the highlights were the couple of Calder Cups that you have been able to be a part of as well.
Yeah, it's been more fun the further I've gotten into it. Just getting to know some of the people, those great teams, those playoff runs were really special. I mean, because you won, which obviously is a lot of fun. But from my role, and I'm sure you understand it, Lou, if you're, pretty much do the home games and, periodically I would travel. But it's just something I can't do a lot of with my full-time job TV wise, but the playoffs, it's a way for them to get coverage too. And so the Griffins will take me along. And when you go on the road with a team, you just learn so much more about them. And those two Calder Cup runs, and really in that whole 5-year, 6-year span, there was long runs almost every summer. But to be on the road like for 3 years and, watch Jeff Blashill. I mean, I'm around Jeff Blashill a little more than most, but, it's not like, I'm hanging out with him or anything. But when you're on the road, you watch how they operate. You just see a lot of stuff in the way he prepared for games and, same thing working with Nelly. And you just get to know the guys on a little different basis. So those two were fun. The first one was fantastic to win one, but the home one was great just because it was here in Grand Rapids. And obviously there were 11,000 people there. The building was as loud as I've ever heard it. And I've been in the booth for 20 seasons and covered covered every Griffins season. I moved here in late 95, early 96, just ahead of the Griffins. So, that was a great memory. The first one was nice, Lou, because we got to use the Red Wings plane, and that was quite a party, albeit for just about an hour and 20 minutes in the air.
I'll bet it was. That sounds like it's been a great ride for you. You've had a chance to cover some great teams. Larry, this right now, let's talk about our Detroit sports teams. If there's anybody that's a bigger Lions fan than me, it's you. I see your posts. Yeah. You get into it. It has been so long, and it just seems like it's just been one frustrating year after another. With this year, with everything else, with COVID coming up, Larry, now I see that Matthew Stafford is off the list. He's back able to practice. What do you see out of the Lions this year, Larry?
Well, I'm as you said, I'm a homer, and I admit it, I'm always hopeful for the Lions, Lou. I mean, going back to the days we were doing that show 35 years ago up in Mount Pleasant, and they have broken our hearts a lot. The way I'm looking at it right now is, heck, if there's ever going to be a year the Lions actually win, maybe this is it, 2020, the way things have gone. I love Stafford. I know some people don't, but I love Stafford. I mean, I've been a Lions fan literally for 50 years, a little more than that now. He's the best quarterback we've ever had. Yeah. I mean, ever in my lifetime. And I'm 56 years old all of a sudden. So I like him, but who knows? The game, I guess the sad part about the Lions is everything is built to go in cycles. We've been able to watch the Pistons have been good and bad. The Tigers have been good and bad. The Red Wings in bigger chunks have been really bad, really good, and back to being really bad again. But the Lions are just flatlined. So one of these years, everything's going to line up. Kind of like 91 was great.
Yeah.
Take away the Washington season opener and the NFC Championship game, and what were they like? 13-3 in between. So one of these days maybe. But I like Stafford. I can't wait to see Swift in the backfield. I'm really excited about that.
I think that was a great get for the Lions myself in the second round. I think he's going to be a playmaker, Larry. With the other sports that are going on, you touched on him with the, have you had a chance to watch any of the bubble games for hockey at all this year?
Yeah,
man, it's been exciting.
I've watched a few of them. Yeah, I like it. Once you just get used to the no fans in the stands thing, I mean, it just takes a little while. It seems weird, but the play seems to be great. It's not like they're backing off. It's been really intense. And I like what I've seen. It's been fun. And I think they and the NBA went about it really the only way you can, Lou, is to bubble people. And I want the NFL back. I just don't see how it's going to happen. I don't see how college football or high school football is going to happen this fall either. But the bubble seems to be the only way it works. And there's only certain things you can bubble, which is pro athletes.
Well, and, and that brings me up to my next point. You see what's happened in baseball, Larry, with the Marlins and now the Cardinals. And, you can only tell these guys so many times they got to stay put. And when you're in different cities, I don't know how you can keep them in one place like that if there isn't a bubble environment.
Right. Well, and to me, I just don't understand that. You're doing a disservice to the fans who want to watch you and your teammates and your colleagues around whatever league you're in by bringing that in, and then by taking that opportunity or getting outside the bubble when you're not supposed to, you bring it in. You can be the one that shuts down, and I mean that's the fans want the game; they need to see it. And I guess from a player's standpoint, selfishly or more importantly, you're going to cost your fellow players money and livelihood because you couldn't go to a casino or something. I mean, there's just, like I said, it's affected all of us in different ways. And, we all just got to suck it up. It is what it is. And until we can get through it, it's going to mean if you want to still play and make money, you got to be smart about what you're doing.
We're joined by Larry Figurski, Channel 8 out of Grand Rapids, sports director and 2020 Jim Ellery Award winner. Larry, have you heard anything on the AHL? Have they made any plans? Are they going to start the season a little bit later this year?
December 4th is what what's come out. But now I'm assuming, and I'm not speaking for the AHL. They said the plan is December 4th.
Okay.
Just in my opinion, that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
If all NHL, if the bubble goes okay, teams can regroup and they're able to open next season. That's their hope, is to do it early in December. The AHL obviously won't go until the NHL is going. And they want to do that, to at least get a couple weeks of games in before Christmas and a holiday break, just because it's already going to be so congested, the schedule, if not minimized game-wise, packed in because they're starting 2 months later than normal. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's January, to be truthful.
And lastly, 2 football questions. You mentioned it with college football. Now with the Power 5 conferences, they're doing conference only for the most part, and you could see them not starting until the end of September. And you've got high school. Larry, I'm with you. As much as I want the high school season, because I do play-by-play, like everybody else, we love it. I just don't see how it's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see how either sport's going to make it through the season.
Yeah, I don't either. And then how do you bring people in? I mean, I guess that's the crazy part, Lou, is nobody really knows, and you can make all your plans, but I mean, the thing can change so dramatically 2 weeks from now to today. All of a sudden it's going down. All of a sudden it's going crazy again. But I mean, if you look at baseball, Lou, it's being done outside the bubble with a ton of money, every precaution you can think they could possibly do with adults, and they can't contain it. So how's that going to work with high school kids? No disrespect meant to high school kids, but you know what I mean? How's it going to work? How are you going to contain it? And I just don't see how it's going to work.
And I don't see how these schools can have the budget too, Larry. I was thinking about that. You've got to have extra guys on hand and extra supplies and this and that and the testing. And that's the last thing, and then I promise I'll let you go. The testing on that, Larry, we could talk about this for hours, is, it'll cost, you try to test 100 kids on a football team in college football once or twice a week. Where does it come in the budget?
Right.
So
that's a great question, and I don't think anyone has an answer for you on that. I mean, my wife's a teacher, my oldest daughter's a teacher, and I mean, things are tight enough as it is. I don't know where schools, especially with what's going on, would come up with that kind of money to keep everybody safe. And I don't think anyone, Lou, is going to want to be like the place that, we were the ones that decided to try it and something went wrong. I mean, pro athletes, it's one thing, they're adult, but to do anything that's going to jeopardize kids at all, I just don't see how you can't go on the side of caution.
Well, Larry, hey, thanks for taking time out tonight. I know it's your night off. Enjoy. If you get a chance, turn the hockey games back on, and good luck to you this year. And can't wait to listen to you and Bob on the call for the Griffins coming up later on this fall.
Thanks, Lou. My pleasure, man. I can't wait to get back there as well.
All right, thank you. Larry Figurski, our 2020 AHL Jim Ellery Award winner for National Media Person of the Year in the AHL and Grand Rapids television sports personality. Larry and I go back to the early to mid 80s, doing a sports show just like this in the basement of Anspaugh Hall at a AM only radio station, WCHP in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, Central Michigan. They had some great broadcasting facilities, and boy, we used to have a lot of fun talking sports. And Larry, kind enough to take time out of his busy schedule to join us here. Hey, still to come at the bottom of the hour, Fred Lynn, Jim Rice's teammate. Fred Lynn's going to join us at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to talk some Boston Red Sox baseball from the 70s, baseball in general from that era, and we'll get his thoughts on what's going on right now in this pandemic situation in the world of the sports that we're going through. It's just crazy. And still to come tonight, we're going to run down everything that's going on in the National Hockey League and with the bubble games, as we've mentioned, the NBA in their bubble, the NFL getting close to training camp. Now it's their turn to show us if they can learn from the Major League Baseball missteps, and we'll see if they can try to get a semblance of a season going, because I can almost guarantee there's going to be no fans in the stands. And so really looking forward to see what that's going to bring about with us here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to take a quick time out, and we'll be right back. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza on 12 Ounce Sports. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on 12 Ounce Sports. Yours truly, Captain Lou, with you until 10 o'clock Eastern time tonight on this Tuesday, August the 4th, 2020. Hope you all are having a great night and you've had a great weekend. Again, thanks to Larry Figursky, Channel 8 out of Grand Rapids. He is their sports director, sports anchor. He's done it all for them over the last 20-plus years in the West Michigan area. And, again, he was the award winner. He won the Jim Ellery Award as the American Hockey League Media Person of the Year. He and Bob Kaiser do a fantastic job together with the Grand Rapids Griffins. They've had probably one of the model franchises to be able to cover and work with it there with in the West Michigan area. And so, again, congratulations to Larry for that award. And thank you for taking time out to talk some Michigan area sports. You know, like I said, he's a big Detroit Lions fan, just like I am. And it's a tough time now for Detroit sports. All four of them really kind of, I don't want to say in a rebuilding mode, but gosh, pretty close. The Lions, it seems like they've been rebuilding for 62 years. But they've got some semblance of an offense. If the Lions can get any defensive play at all this year, watch out. I seriously believe they can at least make a difference. But we're going to do in August, by the way, starting next week, we're going to start our previews of the upcoming football season. We're going to go on the presumption that they are going to play. So what we're going to do is each week over the next 4 weeks, and then we're also going to sprinkle in some college. We're going to preview two divisions. One, like, for example, next week we'll do the AFC South and the NFC South. We'll try to get some beat writers and whatnot on the show each week to talk about it. So we'll preview each of those divisions, and we will pick a Power 5 conference to preview. It's that time of year. And the beauty of it is right now is that we have got so much to do with the sports that are going on right now. You know, with what did I hear this weekend? On Saturday, there was like 60-some games this weekend between baseball, hockey, football, 66 games, or not, sorry, baseball, hockey, and basketball. Can you believe that? 66 games. And, you know, who would have thought on August 2nd we'd be talking about that with hockey and basketball usually over? Baseball, these are the dog days normally. And so we really wouldn't want to talk, wouldn't spend a whole lot of time. All we would have to talk about is football, but we're going to gear it towards football as we always do. And also don't forget, coming up again this year, we will have our installment of the Captain Lou 6-Pack Challenge, where basically I'm going to pick 6 games each week, 3 college and 3 pro. Once they're both going, the first week it'll be all college. And I will pick them against the spread. And what your job is going to be is you have to beat me on those games. If you do, you go in the drawing for that $100 Visa gift card that we give away. Right, I think it's the day after the national championship game in college. So that goes on throughout the fall, and that's going to start up right before the first weekend of college football games. And or college or pro football, whoever starts first. And right now, that's up in the air with the Power 5 conferences. Some of them not starting until the end of September. Some of them not starting until, the middle of September. It's anybody's guess. I know the NFL right now is scheduled to join scheduled to start up right around September 13th. So everything's up in the air right now. And it's 2020. There's no normal right now. We've talked about this all year since the pandemic hit. There is no normal in sports or in life in general. So we'll keep our ears open and our eyes open. But yes, the Captain Lou 6-Pack Challenge, the 3rd year of it, will be coming up this year again. It's going to start in September. Stay tuned for that. It's a good way for you to get a chance to win some Captain Lou cash, as we like to say, that $100 Visa gift card that we've given away. And the popularity of it has grown. I want to thank everybody here at 12 Ounce. This will be coming into my 3rd year working with the guys here, my 2-year anniversary. We'll say 2 calendar years. That's coming up the end of the month. So I'll be into my 3rd year. And I tell you, it's getting better and better every year. We've got a lot of great programs coming on as well. Hey, this reminder before we go to break again, if you're looking to freshen up your look for the summer or the fall, as before you know it, the leaves are going to start falling and you're going to want to get some of this new swag, we've got a great line of clothing here at 12 Ounce Sports. We've got everything from shirts to sweaters, beach towels, phone cases, you name it. Check out the Our Store tab on our website. That's 12ouncesportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. There you'll find a wide variety of clothing items, colors, sizes, and anything that fits your style. That's 12ouncesportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. Well, hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to be joined by our next special guest, Fred Lynn from the Boston Red Sox, California Angels. Played a little bit with the Tigers and the Baltimore Orioles and San Diego Padres back in the 70s and 80s. He's going to join us. We're going to talk some 70s baseball and even more than that with Fred Lynn coming up right after this break here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on 12 Ounce Sports.
For the marching exercise, you want to sit down in the center front of your chair, bring your feet shoulder width apart, and form a 90-degree angle with your knees. From here, you're going to lift one foot and raise the opposite arm, just as you march in place in your chair. Make sure you keep that core nice and tight and you breathe into it, and also maintain good posture with a straight back.
And welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on 12 Ounce Sports as we get to the bottom of the first hour of our show. And right now, let's go to the guest line as we're joined by the first person to get the American League Rookie of the Year and MVP, and that was in the same year, and that was 1975. Fred Lynn on the other end of our line. Fred, thanks for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm doing really well, Captain Lou. How you doing back there?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Hey, first of all, what do you think of baseball in these crazy times before we start talking about the heyday back in the 70s? Who would have thought back then you'd be talking about teams playing in front of no fans?
Yeah, I've been watching a few of the games, and what I've noticed is the guys that have trouble concentrating because there's 50,000 people screaming at them, or some guy in the first row is telling him he's not such a nice person. Those kinds of guys are going to do extremely well in this scenario. It's kind of like taking batting practice, to be honest with you, or an inter-squad game. Because there's nobody in there, players deal with this on a regular basis, but not during a regular game. So in their minds, let's just take Aaron Judge. He goes up there and he's looking at pitches and he's thinking, it's just like batting practice. There's nobody around. There's no pressure. I can't think that they feel any angst whatsoever. So I got to believe somebody like Aaron Judge, he can hit 40 homers in 60 games.
Boy, he's sure on that pace, isn't he? I'll tell you. Hey, I was looking, I was reading up a little bit, and you went to USC, and at first you were going to be a linebacker for the football team and also play baseball. Is that correct?
I went there on a football scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah, I played with Lynn Swan and Sam Cunningham. I'm in that group. And Swanee and I were teammates. And back then, freshmen could not play varsity football, so we played our own games, but we practiced for the varsity, coached by John McKay. And in the early 70s, USC was a powerhouse. So, I played wide receiver and defensive back, and I ran back punts and kicks. And, I could move a little bit, and those attributes that I had in football, especially as a defender, really helped me to play center field, especially in Fenway Park.
Oh, it definitely did. It had to have. And then you came up in in 74, but 75 is when you really burst on the scene. And Fred, I got to ask you, I don't know about you, but if I was a 19 or 20-year-old walking into that locker room and you're seeing the likes of Carl Yastrzemski and Luis Tiant, and just to name a few, how long did it take you to maybe get over the jitters and then think, you know what, I do belong here?
Fortunately for me, I always played with older kids when I was a youngster. Growing up in Southern Cal, we had pickup games all the time. We didn't have basically adult supervision. There's a group of guys in the neighborhood, and you played with those guys. And I was always pretty good in all the sports, so I played with older kids. I'm glad you brought that up, though, because when I first got to the Sox, September of '74, and I was a Giant fan as a kid, Mays and Cepeda, Marshall, those guys. And so two of my teammates were Juan Marshall and Orlando Cepeda. Now, these are guys that I watched when I was a kid. And now I'm sitting on the bench, and they're, flanking me. Here's Cepeda on one side and Marshall on the other. That was a pretty surreal moment.
Wow.
I was 21. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, and I'm getting paid to sit here.
Wow. And then you start out the season, and that 75 season, I can remember that 3-home run, 10 RBI game you had against my Detroit Tigers, too. That's one of the things that when I saw that, I can remember listening to it on the radio thinking, man, this guy is something else. And then you played some of the teams that you played against, not only with the Oakland A's were just coming off of their dynasty, and then, of course, playing against the Reds and the Yankees. What a marvelous time it was back in the mid-'70s for baseball.
I agree with you. It was so much fun, to be honest with you. We weren't making a lot of money. I made, I think, $20,000 my first year in the big leagues, and but we were having a great time, and we were so good. We had so many good players on our clubs in the '70s when I was with the Sox that we averaged, I think, my 6 years there, like 95 wins a year.
Wow.
And we only got to the playoffs once. I mean, in '78, everybody remembers we lost to the Yankees in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one-game playoff. We won 99 games that year, went home. In '77, we won 97 games and went home. So it was a tough division. Baltimore, the Yankees, and the Sox. We were three of the premier clubs in the American League. We just all happened to be in the same division, and only one team could go to the playoffs. So, yeah, I had a great time, to be honest. But it would have been even better if we played with a wild card, because I'd have been in the playoffs every year.
100%. You know, and Fred, you look back on that, and I can remember, you know, I started following baseball when the Tigers were about 71, 72, and then, of course, they fell off, and that's when you guys really started to come together. And, you know, again, you and Jim Rice came up. I think you were called the Gold Dust Brothers or Gold Dust Twins when you first came up, and the pitching staff, you had Bill Spaceman Lee, just a great cast of characters, and it just had to have been a blast back then.
Yeah, it really was. I was a pretty shy guy. Jimmy Rice and I came up together, and I've known Jim Rice since I was 21, and he was 21. And so we go way back. But we were just shy guys, and we had so many type A personalities on the club. We could just sit back and watch and listen. Between Louis Tiant and Carlton Fisk and Yaz and Bill Lee, I mean, the reporters that covered us must have had a field day, because everybody wanted to talk, and we just kind of sat back and watched. You're a Tiger guy, right?
I am.
So, yeah. I played against Bill Freehan and Al Kaline. In fact, I was lucky enough to be there on Al Kaline Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were playing the Tigers then, and I got to meet Al that day, and it was really pretty cool for me. I was 21 years old, and you know, the city of Detroit gave him just about everything, and they should have, because he was a great player and just a really, really good guy. And so I just want to let you know I got to see that. If you're a Tiger guy, that was pretty cool for me too.
Oh gosh, that would have been amazing, because you know, Al Kaline was one of my favorites, and you know, I got to tell you, you were one of them too, because what I liked about your game, Fred, was your hustle, and you went after everything full bore. I know you crashed into a few walls in your day, but you know, that's how. I'm not saying it isn't played like that now, but I think back then, I did think it was just played a little bit harder like that.
Well, with my football background, I didn't really have any fear. You know, if you can catch a ball coming across the middle, and back then, you know, linebackers could take a forearm and hit you in the head. They can't do that now, but I mean, they could just decapitate you. So the idea was to catch the ball and then take a hit. Well, in Fenway Park, you know, I took a few hits against that wall, but I tried to make sure I caught the ball. I just didn't have any fear. And I think when you're not making as much money, you don't think about that, and you throw caution to the wind. At least I did. And maybe today's players, because they have so much to lose, maybe they're a little bit more conservative in their style of play.
Well, I'd like to talk to you, Fred, about the World Series in '75. To me, that still is the greatest World Series that I've ever seen. And I know you were on the losing end of it, but it was still just a tremendous one to watch as a fan, as a kid growing up. That Game 6 with the home run by Carlton Fisk and the one-run games, and just the pitching matchups and the strategy. And, you know, you played against the Big Red Machine, and your team was, in my opinion, just as loaded as they were. Wow, two giants playing, two Titans playing in that World Series. That had just to not only fun, but just electric, the whole series.
It really was, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy it as much at the time, because I was just a rookie. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I came out of Southern Cal, and we won 3 national titles my 3 years at SC. I was used to playing for winning teams and used to being in World Series. Won the AAA World Series in Pawtucket when I was there. So I was used to that. I wasn't used to losing. But the big difference between the two teams is that we were so much younger than the Reds, and they were very established with their guys. And we were just a bunch of young kids new on the block, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And we did not have Jim Rice in that series. if we have Jimmy Rice, I think we beat them in 6 games, and they don't have to wait till 2004 because we needed that big right-handed bat in our lineup against some of their lefties. And so we really missed Jimmy in that series. But looking back on it now, I'm just happy to be a part of it, especially Game 6. MLB Network voted Game 6 the best game ever played. And I was in it. So,
wow.
And that series really put baseball back on the map. Baseball was kind of lagging a little bit, and football was kind of taking the forefront for the people in this country. And then everybody was glued to the TVs during that series, and there were so many back and forths and ebb and flows in the series, and you just didn't know who was going to win. It was a great series all the way around. The Reds had a great team. We had a great team, and it was just a real pleasure to be a part of it.
Now, did you guys fraternize with players from the other teams like they do now?
No.
I didn't think so.
Is that quick enough? No.
Okay.
Especially New York. In the 70s, even before I got there, they were fighting all the time. With Thurman Munson and Carlton Fisk, you had 2 Type A personalities catching against one another in the same division. Who's better? All that kind of stuff. And then that kind of spurred it on, I think, because both those guys kind of ran the club, their prospective clubs. And so when I got there, I could feel it. It was kind of like, for me, SC UCLA games. But even more intense because the fans were just, jeez. There were more fights in the stands than there were on the field sometimes. Wow. But it was tense, let's put it that way. And we never talked to them. I never talked to any of those guys before a game. If we did, there might be a fight. So there was no love lost between the teams, the cities, the fans. It was knockdown, drag out, that's for sure.
Boy, I can remember those rivalries. And that leads me to my next question, Fred. We're joined by Fred Lynn, 1975 American League Rookie of the Year and MVP of the Red Sox. Some great teams in those 70s with the Red Sox, and, of course, Yankees, Orioles that were right there with them. When you played in the All-Star game, now back then I can remember, obviously, with what happened with Pete Rose and Ray Fosse at the plate there in the early 70s, but when you played later on with the Angels and you hit that grand slam in '83 in the All-Star game, the National League had won 11 in a row, I think, or 12 in a row, and you finally helped snap that string. You guys didn't want to lose that All-Star game either.
No. I played in 9 All-Star games, and that was my 9th. And Lee McPhail was the president of the American League, and he used to call us individually and say, guys, we got Freddie, we got to win this game. We're gonna in a pep talk from the league president. You have to understand that it was 2 separate leagues back then. Yeah. The National League had their own president, their own set of umpires, their own baseballs, their own strike zone, for Christ's sakes, their own style of play because they had so many fields that were artificial surface, so it was a faster game. The American League had umpires were the big chest protector on the outside, so our strike zone was higher than the National League. It was totally different. And when we played those guys, we wanted to win. Yeah. It was serious stuff. It was no, we're going to get everybody in the game kind of thing. That didn't happen. Starting pitchers, usually your big gun was your starter, and he'd go 3 innings. And then maybe somebody else might go 2 or 3. And not every pitcher got to be in the game. So, and not everybody played in the game, but everybody had one thing on their mind, and that was to win the game. I really enjoyed those games, being with the best players in the league, and finally be able to put my arm around Georgie Brett and say, "Hey, glad you're on my team for a change." That kind of stuff. I didn't talk to our pitchers though. I drew the line there. Position players, yeah. Pitchers, no, because I'm gonna have to see you, in another week. But when we played those guys, it was serious stuff. And when I hit that grand slam, it was in the 3rd inning that put us up 7-3, I think. Mm-hmm. or 7-1, and I knew we were going to win. And I pumped my fist going around first base. So yeah, we finally beat these guys. And then if you look back since 1983, the American League has dominated the Nationals. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that I was a factor in that changing of the guard, so to speak.
And if I'm not mistaken, Fred, that was the first Grand Slam. I couldn't remember. It was a lot of years before that when someone hit one. Am I not mistaken?
It's the first and only.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was the first one. Okay.
Yeah, it was the 50th anniversary of the All-Star Game. The first one was in Comiskey Park, and Babe Ruth played in it. And he hit a home run kind of where I did, and then I told the reporters, well, I think mine went a little further than the Babe's, but but yeah, it's been 80 plus years, and it's the only one. And I look at it now, and you might go 3-4 years before they even load the bases. Yeah. The difference now is that when they do, you're going to face a closer.
Yep.
You're not going to face a middle relief guy. Some guy's going to come in that's really nasty. So it's held up for a long time.
And I think you're right. I think it's going to hold up for a lot longer time too, because the way the game is played now compared to the way it was played back then, it's home run or bust. But that's another discussion for another time. I don't want to sound like the old man get off my porch kind of a thing, Fred, but I think it is played a little different. You got traded to the to the Angels, and I know you really like Boston, but you had a chance to play with some good talent in California as well. So I know it was a tough transition at first for you, but you were on some decent teams there too, weren't you?
Yeah, the 82 team in California was as good a team as I played on. We had an all-star just about at every position. And, Gene Autry owned the California Angels back then, and that guy wanted to win. So he would pick guys from just any team he wanted to fill his squad. And we had so many guys from different organizations on that team. There was hardly any guys that came up with the Angels. Most of us were free agents or got traded over there. But in 1982, here's something you probably don't know. That 82 club, I was the youngest starter at age 30.
Wow. Wow.
Now, that is a veteran team.
I'll say.
This was a very, very experienced team. Like I said, all-stars just about everywhere. We had 4 MVPs on the team. Rod Crew, Donnie Baylor, Reggie Jackson, and myself. You had Doug DeCensi, Bobby Grich, Brian Downing, Bob Boone. This is a who's who for a team. It sounds like an all-star team.
Oh, it certainly does. And again, it ranks right up there with the teams you played in the 70s. And when you rattle off those names, I can see why you would say that's one of the better teams you played on. Yeah,
it was so much fun because the guys were professionals. Everybody had been in the league for a long time, and they knew how to play the game. And boy, for me, it was really fun to be with a group that thought the same way I did. The game is first. How are we going to win this game? How are we going to win this inning? Sometimes you micromanage a game, and that's how we did it. And we didn't look at the big picture. We just played boom, 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 boom. And everybody was on the same page the whole year. It was really fun to play with guys that all thought the same way.
Well, I want to ask you one question about your short stint with the Tigers back it was like 88, I believe. You got traded right at the deadline, and then they were trying to say that they didn't do it in time and all that. Well, that had to have been kind of weird.
Yeah, that was I didn't know this rule when I was traded in. I was playing in California. I was with the Orioles, and then I had to meet the Tigers in Chicago. They were playing the White Sox. So the trade happened about 4:30 in the afternoon. So I had a rental car. I had to drive out to Ontario Airport, which is like an hour and a half with no traffic. But this was at 5:30 in the afternoon, and to meet a charter jet that was going to take me there. So I get to the airport and I'm frazzled, and I got 2 guys in plaid shirts and jeans, and I said, "Well, where are your pilots?" I said, "Oh, great!" and I popped in this little Learjet, and there's just 2 seats and the guys, and off we went to Chicago. Well, come to find out, when there's a trade like that, you had to be in the airspace of the city where you're supposed to go by midnight. And we missed it by 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So, and, the GM was real honest about it, and they because you could have fudged on it. Of course, I guess there was a log by the pilots and stuff. But anyway, it turns out, had we made the playoffs, I would have been ineligible.
Are you kidding?
Because of 10 minutes, yep.
Oh.
And then the Times ran that story, and it became a kind of an issue, and then people said, this is nuts. He did everything in his power to get there. And so they changed that.
Yeah, I remember that year. I think Detroit lost by one game that year. And
we lost by one game. Yep.
You had a great September. I think you had 7 or 8 home runs in that month. You
did
really
I drove
well.
in about 25 runs. And, I did okay for the boys. And that was a veteran club, too.
Yeah.
These guys, you had Trammell and Whitaker and Evans at first. And this was a good group of guys. They've been around the block. And the pitching was really good. That was the thing for me. I hadn't been on too many clubs that had really good pitching, and this team had pretty good pitching. And we lost by a game. I can't tell me how many times my team's lost by a game.
Yeah, I understand. We're joined by Fred Lynn for a few more moments here on the show. Fred, just looking back at your career, again, I like to go back to the 70s. I love reading up on the personalities on that 75 and 76 team. And one of them I got to ask you about is your third base coach, Don Zimmer. Always loved him. And he was such a card. Tell me what it was like to be on around the clubhouse with Don.
Well, when I first got there, he was our third base coach. Mm-hmm. And Daryl Johnson was our manager. In fact, Daryl was the manager in AAA when I was in AAA, so I knew him a little bit. And Zim was our third base coach, and back then, guys didn't have cell phones or things, so we played cards a lot. Uh-huh. And Yaz, Doug Griffin, and myself, and Don Zimmer would play hearts. And we'd play for money, but unbeknownst to Zim, the three of us were always against him. And so, I don't know if you know how to play hearts, but anyway, it doesn't matter. If we could drop some stuff on him, we did. And he'd go, "Why are you getting me? I'm not the low. I'm the low guy. You should get that guy." But he didn't know, and we buried him. But he was a fun guy to be around. But he changed a little bit when he became manager, and you have to.
Right.
You can't be pals with the guys because you got to manage 25 guys. So it was a little different then, but he was still a good guy, and I had a lot of fun with him. That's for sure.
Well, Fred, hey, I appreciate you taking time out tonight to be on the show. This has been an absolute treat. It's always great looking back on the the games of the 70s and 80s. That's kind of what we've been doing during this pandemic, trying to look back at some of the fun times. If nothing else, I get to relive watching sports back then when you listened to them more than watched them on the radio, and you listened to them on the radio. And one last question for you. I know that you watch the game still. With the pandemic, do you think that they're going to be able to finish the season this year?
I think they're going to do everything in their power. I think they get a real wake-up call with Miami. You can't play footloose and fancy-free with this thing here. I was telling some of my buddies that for the money these guys are making, I would tell my family, listen, I'll see you in 2 months.
Yeah.
I'll stay at the hotel here, and I'll see you in 2 months, and I'm just going to do my thing. But I'm not going to make anybody feel bad about it, but I'm going to make sure we get this thing done. And that's the attitude you have, to be honest with you. You really have to pigeonhole this thing, even more than you normally do. And guys, especially in my era, we just kind of had the blinders on and did our thing, and everything else around us didn't really matter. It matters now. So you really have to pay attention to what you're doing and be smart about it. But if they're smart about it, and I think that this happened early enough that it's going to be okay. And be honest, the guys that are coming down positive, they're not showing many signs. It's like a cold. So I think it's going to be okay. But that was a wake-up call, and I think the guys will say, you know what, let's play ball.
Well, Fred, thanks again for joining us tonight, and I hope we both enjoy a baseball season and a World Series coming up at the end of October. And take care of yourself. And, again, we appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Captain Lou. Good talking to you, and we'll do it again sometime.
I'd love to. Thanks, Fred. Fred Lynn, the 1975 American League Rookie of the Year and MVP, joining us here on the show. What a treat talking 70s baseball with Fred. It brings back some great memories. And I got to tell you, we'll talk about it more after the break, but that World Series of 75, I just look, and he says that his Angels team in 1982 was better than that 75 team. I mean, wow, because I look at that, and it's funny for those of you that weren't around then or didn't know about those teams back then. It had, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Reds, the Braves, or not the Braves, the Red Sox, the Orioles were all, it was like there was a tier of about 6 teams that were battling. Oakland was just at the end of their dynasty. I remember that. That was right before Reggie went to New York, and they had just come off of 3 straight World Series championships. Boston swept them, I believe, in the ALCS that year. And, oh, my gosh, some of the players on that team, and we'll go over some. Well, we'll do it right now. I mean, he talked about Carlton Fisk, and he talked about and you had a guy like Bernie Carbo off the bench. And, they had Butch Hobson. Carl Yastrzemski was right towards the end of his career, but, Hall of Famer. Cecil Cooper was on the team. He had a lot of great years with Milwaukee as well. This pitching staff, Rick Wise, Luis Tiant, Spaceman Lee, Dick Drago, Reggie Cleveland. Oh, my goodness. They were fun to watch. And like he said, there was a lot of type A personalities. And then you throw in Daryl Johnson as the manager and Don Zimmer, of course, Popeye at third base. Wow. We could, like I said, I could have talked to him all night about that and hope to have him on. Maybe we'll see if we can't get him on when the World Series comes around, and we'll get his thoughts on the World Series. But thanks to Fred Lynn for coming on the show tonight. What an absolute treat. We've got still another hour to go on the show here tonight, and we don't want you to go anywhere. We're going to talk some hockey. We're going to talk some baseball still. We're going to talk some football, college football. Are the seasons going to happen in professional football or college football or high school for that matter? Is any of it going to happen with when in regards to fall sports? Can baseball finish? Can they get out of stop getting in their own way? And like Fred said, these guys are making a boatload of money. They can't just sit still for 2 months and play? I don't know. We'll come back. We'll talk more about that. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on 12 Ounce Sports. Welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12 Ounce Sports Network, and yours truly, Captain Lou, here in the chair. And again, want big thanks to our guest here tonight in our first hour, Larry Figurski, the sports director of Channel 8 out of Grand Rapids, the 2020 Jim Ellery Award winner for AHL Media Person of the Year. He covers the Griffins for not only Channel 8 out of Grand Rapids, but he is their color commentator along with Bob Kaiser, who both of them have been doing play-by-play and color commentating for, almost at least 20 years. And I would put them up against any play-by-play color commentating duo, NHL, AHL, you name it. They're two of the best, very professional. I've had the pleasure of sitting in the booth with them and watching them work, and I got to tell you, they're consummate pros. And not only that, they're superhuman beings as well. And I want to thank Larry for taking time out to talk sports with us. And, of course, Fred Lynn joining us at the bottom of the hour. What a treat there. He's got a million stories, and what a super nice guy. And we talked about it before we went to break. Those teams, in the 70s, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Orioles were just starting to come on. Then, of course, you play against the likes of the Oakland A's, who just got through 3 straight World Series championships, and coming down off of that with Raleigh Fingers as a starter before he went to being a reliever. And you had Reggie Jackson and all kinds of personalities on that team. And then they go up against the Big Red Machine in the World Series. Now, you think, the Reds had Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Davey Concepcion, Ken Griffey Sr. That kind of was their infield right there. It just was George Foster in the outfield hitting 50 home runs. And then you play with Jim Rice and Fred Lynn and Luis Tiant, like I mentioned, Cecil Cooper, Carl Yastrzemski. How could you forget about that? Before Miggy hit, Miguel Cabrera hit for the Triple Crown, he was the last person to do it back in 1967. They had some Hall of Famers on that team. What a blockbuster World Series that was. 5 one-run games, including what, like Fred said, was voted the most popular World Series game, or popular game of all time, Game 6 in 1975. 12-inning game, the Reds and the Red Sox. Carlton Fisk hit that home run at Fenway in the 12th inning. You can always see him motioning it to go fair, and they won that in 12 innings, only to lose Game 7. I believe it was 2-0 or 3-2 or something like that. And as Fred mentioned, a lot of one-game back teams that he played on, and he played on some great teams. 99 wins, not getting to a playoff. 97, not going anywhere. Played with the Tigers in 88. They lost to Boston by 1 game. California went to the playoffs back in 82. I believe they lost to the Brewers that year, if I'm not mistaken. In the playoff, that was the year the Brewers, I think, went to the World Series and lost to the St. Louis Cardinals. So, he's played on some dandy teams in that championship, on those teams, California and Boston. But what a treat talking to Fred Lynn. And you'll be able to catch us. We are on channel 761 Zingo TV, by the way. Check out Zingo TV and use the promo code 12-ounce sports, and you will you can sign up for it. It's free, and you'll be able to watch all of our shows. This show will be on Thursday, August 6th at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. So you'll be able to watch and listen to that interview, both those interviews tonight. That we'll have those again on Thursday. And, of course, this will be downloaded as well on iTunes. Just look up 12-ounce sports, and also then the Captain Lou Extravaganza. That will be available tomorrow. And tomorrow night sometimes, in about 24 hours, we'll have it ready to go for you. Before we go any further, I want to say a special shout-out to the Freeland Falcons head football coach Kevin Townsend. Happened to see our video earlier tonight, and it's funny. I put the shirt on, and it's the color of his arch rival, and I swore to him. I wore it to one of his football games, and he said, "Oh, my God, it's Saginaw Swan Valley colors," which is their arch rival, and I swore to him I'd never wear it again, at least on a show. And, oh, my goodness, I forgot all about it. So, Kevin, number one, thanks for checking out the video. Thanks for watching us. And I won't wear this on the show ever again. I promise you I will wear the Freeland green next Tuesday night. I promise you that. So, yikes. I'm always going to get the raspberries for that. But you talk about a head coach that cares about his kids, and he's done great for that community. It's Kevin Townsend, head coach of the Freeland Falcons, who I do high school play-by-play football for. But he's been around that community forever. I think he's been 15 years their head coach, and he does a lot of great things for that team, and they're fun to be around. And I'm looking, hopefully, we'll keep our fingers crossed we can get a season going here in the fall, if not maybe in the spring. And so thanks again to Kevin for joining us. That kind of brings us, let's talk a little bit about, the effect that the coronavirus is having. We mentioned early in the last hour about some of the things that we're having here on the show, including our football previews, our annual football previews, which we will start next week, by the way. But, a lot of it's obviously going to be all contingent on if we can play with the virus. Now, we talked to Larry Figursky about this in the first half hour. My thing with it, you can be precautious. The cost factor of this, if you think about it, is, it's how are some of these schools going to do it? Now, we talked about it earlier. I think it was a month ago I brought this up. And you've got a school, like, a smaller school with a smaller budget. I'm just going to bring up, since it's my alma mater, is Central Michigan. They're going to have 85 kids. We'll say 100 kids that are going to be there. And they're going to test them weekly to start. And, okay, the test, I heard it was $40 a person. Or $40 a test is the ultimate cost of it. So that's $4,000 each test. You do that weekly, for example. That's that's $16,000 a month. And if you do it more than one, you're looking at $100,000 to $200,000 just on testing. These budget, now you think about that with high schools. Now they don't have 100 kids; they've got maybe 30. Okay. So cut that in a third. That's still $5,000. For a high school program, that's a lot of coin. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You look at some of this other stuff, the precautions, how it works in Michigan is, they're going to let football practice start up next week, for example. And they're going to start out with the conditioning, 7-on-7. They're going to be able to do handoffs and this and that. No pads. That doesn't start until the 17th. Now, my thing with that is, who's going to be there to sanitize this stuff? You got to have someone extra on the field to do all that. The undertaking of that, it's going to be huge. And I know where there's a will, there's a way. And the resiliency of people, I think, sometimes gets underappreciated. But that's a lot of work. And I understand we got to keep clean and the social distancing and everything, but I don't know. And the numbers, they're trying to level off, but with the close contact, I mean, what happens if you get a couple of kids that test positive? You shut her down. You look at baseball, and it's like what Fred Lynn said in the last half hour. These guys in the pros with Miami and St. Louis. It was, it was incredible. And now you look at it, and these guys are knuckleheads, and they're making millions of dollars. They've got, and I don't get it. I don't know. So I want the sports to start. I really do. I want them to, I want football to play. You look at the Power 5 conferences. Let's get into that real quick. You've got the SEC. It sounds like they're not going to start till the 28th. The Big Ten is supposed to announce, I believe, tomorrow what their plans are going to be. Are they going to delay the start? They're only going to play conference games. So they're going to be like 10 games, probably 10-game season. And so, And so, you've got Rutgers, who I think all their football activities are on hold because they had an outbreak of it. Northwestern had one person that tested positive, and they stopped everything. That's just two teams. And believe me, I want it to happen. I want it to happen in the worst way. I want sports to go on. I want football. I look at baseball. Maybe they're going to learn from baseball's missteps. But I just don't know how can you corral all these kids? And the ACC, they're going to play a 10+1 season. The Pac-12, I don't know. I've talked to a couple of people out west that say there's no high school sports until January. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just at a loss right now. I'm trying to think of ways they can do this. And I've talked to some coaches, some high school coaches. I've talked to college coaches, that they're talking about how they're getting prepared for this. And they've got their game plan, but it's so up in the air to what they're going to be able to do. And, I don't know. It really is, it's a crapshoot. And then you look at the NFL with their opt-outs. They've got till Thursday to opt out. Do they have a game plan in place? I mean, do they really? They've gone with full speed ahead with everything. From the draft to, the schedule announcement to free agency. Now they've canceled exhibition games. They canceled the Hall of Fame game. They're going to go with 80 players. And they're going to go, their plan right now is to go right into the regular season. No scrimmages or no nothing. I believe that's the only way they can do it. But wow, are they going to be able to do it? And I know they've got more money than Carter's got liver pills, I think, sometimes. So there's a way around it. I'm sure they can find it. It's just too bad there couldn't be a bubble system set up for them like the NBA and the NHL, because I'll tell you what, they're full speed ahead. The NHL has no positive tests. And the NBA, except for a handful of knuckleheads or people that had to leave, and legitimately, they've really had no negative tests either. Or no positive tests, I'm sorry. So, unfortunately, football cannot go that route. Now, with baseball, here's what I think could happen. Is, and I think it might happen. If they can get through the season, which I'm confident, I kind of agree with Fred. I think they're going to work their way through it. I could see a bubble system set up for the playoffs or the World Series. They might have to. And I sure as hell hope it's not Florida, because it seems like that's where a lot of it, the hot spots are still at. But then again, where are you going to have it? It can't, it's not going to be I guess it could still be in a Midwestern city, but where? Keep it away from a casino, that's for sure. St. Louis. I mean, what's up with these guys? What are they thinking? I don't know. We're going to have Todd Corder join us. See, I just got a text message from him, a contributor to the show. He's going to join us in a few minutes, and we'll talk a little bit. We'll get his reaction to talking with Fred Lynn. We'll go down memory lane with him, and we'll get his opinions on what's going on in the world of sports as well, with football and hockey and basketball and all of that, and baseball especially. And we'll get some of his comments on that. He's a good contributor to the show here on 12 Ounce Sports here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll talk more. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on 12 Ounce Sports. Hey, welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on 12 Ounce Sports. Hey, I want to remind you that we've got, sports are back in session, and if you're like a lot of Americans and you want to maybe put $1 or $2 on the NHL games or whatever, or the bubble, I suggest you check out mybookie.ag. And they're a legit website, and they've got a lot of options on there. And if you, for your first deposit, just use the promo code 12 Ounce Sports, and you'll get your deposit matched 100% up to $1,000. Hockey, baseball, basketball. Like last weekend, I think there was 70 games that you could watch. And also you got the PGA coming up with their first major. MyBookie, And for your first deposit, make sure that you use the promo code 12ounce sports, and you'll get that bonus 100% up to $1,000. Right now, let's go back to the Captain Lou guest line, and on the other end of that line is a contributor to our show, good friend of the show and a pal of mine, Todd Corder. Todd, how are you tonight?
Hey, Lou, I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on. Good talking to you.
It's great talking to you, too. Well, Todd, we got a couple of weeks in the baseball season, and, some teams are able to play. Our Tigers get a little vacation courtesy of the St. Louis Cardinals.
That's correct. They're going to be off until at least Friday. I think they play Pittsburgh this coming this weekend, and the Pirates are probably the worst team in Major League Baseball, so maybe they can pad that 5-5 record. They just come off this is weird to say, the 7th-inning doubleheader loss to the Cincinnati Reds on Sunday. So, they started off really good, and now they're at the 500 mark. But, Lou, the way the standings are, 500 will probably get you in, or at least get you into play-in game. And what's been the pleasant surprise for the Tigers bullpen this year has the back end has been tremendous with Buck Farmer and Jimenez. They've really been pitching really well. Once they get a lead, they've been able to keep it. Buck Farmer's been perfect so far this season.
I never in a million years, after watching Buck Farmer the last 5 years, thought that he would be one of our go-to guys in the back end of the bullpen, because he's not exactly set the world on fire, but hey, I'll take it.
Well, Buck is an Atlanta native. He went to Georgia Tech, went to Rockdale High School. The Tigers drafted him, and he wasn't even with the team, not even a year when they brought him up. I mean, as soon as they drafted him, the Tigers were in a pennant race, and they called him up because the farm system was not very replenished then, and they brought Buck up too soon, but they had to from an organizational standpoint at the major league level. So, Buck took his lumps, but every year, if you take a look at the back of his baseball card, it's gotten better and better, and now the early round draft pick for Detroit is starting to pay off.
Well, if they can keep it up, like you said, they've got an opportunity. If they could be like 31-29 or 30-30, they might be able to sneak in. What's funny is, speaking of that, we had Fred Lynn on in the last half hour, and he mentioned something to that effect. He said, I wish we would have had wild cards when I played. You look at some of those teams he was on, 99 wins, 97, 98, and they went home, the first week of October without getting even into the ALCS. There was those teams back in the 70s, I know you and I are a little prejudiced because that's when we grew up, but boy, oh boy, some of those teams, the Boston teams, the Yankees, the Reds, the Dodgers, Oakland, my goodness, there was some baseball 40 years ago.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I remember Lynn and Jim Rice, they were dubbed as the Gold Dust Twins.
Yeah.
That 75 World Series, Lou, to me, is as good as it gets. Maybe you can include the Braves in 91, losing to the Twins in 7 games with Smoltz, going against former Tiger Jack Morris. But that 75 series when Boston lost to Cincinnati, that was Lynn's second year in the league, and he batted .280 with a homer and 5 RBIs in the World Series. And I wish I would have known sooner that you had him on. I definitely would have. I happened to catch the tail end of the interview, and I definitely will check the replay out. And I would tell anybody else out there to check the replay out because they don't make him like Freddie Lynn anymore.
What's funny is right at the beginning of the interview, he played with Lynn Swann. And, who was the other running back on those USC teams back in the early 70s? He went as a linebacker but played D-back and running back or wide receiver, and then played on 3 straight USC College World Series championships back in the 70s. And he said, boy, when I came to the majors, he says, I wasn't used to losing. I wasn't used to going home with all those wins.
Well, you just mentioned his career. I mean, they won the World Series in 71, 72, and 73. You know, Fred Lynn also represented the United States at the 71 Pan American Games. You know, when they won a silver medal, he was selected, by Boston, I think it was the second round of the 73 MLB draft, right around I think it was the 41st pick overall. And, you know, I mean, he didn't stay in the minors long, that was for sure. And, you know, just what a fantastic career. I mean, in 7 seasons with Boston, he batted over 300, hit 124 homers, and drove in 521 runs. And, you know, he was so close to the World Series, you know, several times in his career. But that Cincinnati club, that 75 Reds team, that's as good as any team I've seen besides probably the 98 Yankees. And, you know, Joe Morgan got the game-winning hit, a base hit in center field, ironically, to put the Reds ahead to stay.
Yeah, and you know, and he mentioned that 82 team he played on with the California Angels. He was the youngest player on that team, and he was in the starting lineup, and he was 30. And they you know, they had the likes of Rod Carew and Bobby Grich and Doug DeCinces and the pitching staff they had, you know, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they lost to the Brewers that year in the ALCS, but you know, for him to say that team in California in 82 was better than that 75 Red Sox team that had the likes of Jim Rice and Carl Yastrzemski and Cecil Cooper and, you know, the pitchers like Bill Spaceman Lee and Luis Tiant. And, oh, my God, what a time to be a baseball fan back then. It's always great to talk to these guys. And, you know, in the way they played the game back then, full bore, 100%. And, Todd, the other thing that we talked about was, you know, I asked him if they fraternized with anybody else. He's like, oh, no way. I'll give you one word, no. And I love that.
Yeah, today's players, they hang out together in the batting cage, even with the opposing team, and they all know each other, a lot because of free agency.
Sure.
And then, of course, you've got social media. It's just a different world today. And, you know, when Fred Lynn in 81, he was included one of the 100 greatest baseball players of all time. So, you know, it was great to see he became a Tiger in 88 when Baltimore traded him to Detroit for Chris Hoyles.
Yeah.
So, and a couple other guys. And, you know, they traded him for the 1988 pennant drive. And did you get a chance, because I caught the tail end of the interview, did you get a chance to ask him what it was like to play for Sparky Anderson?
Well, all we talked about really was that trade deadline, because remember, at first, technically, and he told me in the interview that if Detroit would have won the division in 88, he would not have been eligible to play in the playoffs, because he said you had to be in Detroit airspace by midnight. And he was trying to catch a plane from California to Chicago. And he said a couple of guys in plaid shirts and blue jeans met him at the airport in Ontario, California, and they jumped on a private. It was like a plane. It was like a twin engine plane. It wasn't anything, you know, like a private jet or nothing. They didn't do that back then. And he ended up missing it like 10 minutes or something, and it was such a mess. And yeah, he hit 7 home runs and drove in 25 RBIs in September. But again, his, you know, like he said, they finished 1 game short. And this, ironically enough, it was to Boston in 88. Remember that?
And you know that MLB Commissioner Peter Ueberroth at the time later overruled the decision.
Yeah.
He said, declaring that as long as the transaction was completed by the deadline, the player did not need to physically, quote-unquote, report to their new team before the deadline. But obviously it was a moot point because the Tigers missed it by 1 game. But I would love to have heard him, you know, if you get him back on again, talk about what it was like to play for the late, great Sparky Anderson.
Well, I'm going to try to get him on right, you know, God willing, the World Series takes place in October. We'll get him on, you know, do a little preview of that. I think that would be an absolute blast, and I will ask him about that. Todd, I want to pick your brain with a few more things here if you got time.
Sure.
The college football season is, you know, rapidly approaching. It's August 4th. Obviously the games are not going to take place on Labor Day weekend like they normally would. The SEC is now what? It's going to be September 28th. Am I not mistaken? That's when they're going to try to start. The Big Ten is supposed to announce tomorrow when their season is going to start. But my goodness, Todd, I still, you and I have chatted, via text message about this. I as much as I want him to play, I just don't see how it's going to be possible.
Yeah, that's, to me, they're delaying what is to me, it's just a delay. It's a delay, and it's a delay, and hope and pray that the cases go down, because to me, without any sport being a bubble, right now in this environment in the United States, and I hate to be negative, Nelly, I don't know how in the heck you're going to play football at the high school level and the college level. I just don't know how it can be done. At the NFL level, I think it ironically has a chance, even though they've gone full bore with it. The players, to me, in the NFL can stay at the training camps. The Falcons have places where they can stay right on that training camp campus. They could bubble them in and have all the practices there. The only problem is the travel. But they do have private planes, so they can travel via private plane straight to the stadium and play that day, and then get on the flight and come straight home after the game without having to deal with the hotel. That, I don't know if that's feasible. I know it probably is not feasible, but I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain how the NFL can be in a bubble. I guess the other idea I had maybe was to set it up like baseball could have done, which they should have done in the first place, is and have a couple facilities in Arizona and Florida, keeping a grapefruit and cactus league, separate them until the World Series, and then just play it. In football, you could move them to a few locations, set it up somewhere. They can practice on local fields. It wouldn't be as good as their other field, but if you can find local fields and play, to practice and then play the games at, certain places, it's just going to be much harder to put them in a bubble. I think the NFL is gung-ho, and I like it, Lou, but yeah. I don't see how it can be done.
And switching it to baseball, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but none of these guys that went out and did their thing, going out to get, according to Derek Jeter, milk and clothing and coffee, they're not going to get reprimanded for this. I mean, how, I understand that they're paying the price supposedly by being sick, but if they're not going to get reprimanded for it, what's going to stop the next guy from saying, you know what, I'm going to step outside, and do my thing? It just, these guys just don't get it.
Well, like Derek Jeter said, they got too comfortable. I listened to that press conference yesterday, about 8 or 9 minutes of it. He said the players just got too comfortable with the situation, and everything was going really well. And then a couple of, he was pretty upset about the rumors that was flying around about the team going to, strip joints and et cetera here in Atlanta. And he said nothing could be further from the truth, and it really upset him. He just said the players got comfortable and made some bad decisions, and we've had conversations with them, and they paid the price, and now it's time to move on. Lou, wouldn't it be a fantastic story at the Florida Marlins and then somehow winning the East? I don't think it. I guess it's possible, but not probable with a makeshift lineup, even though they've got their top 4 hitters in there. Could you imagine if they won the East? I mean, it would be a story of the year.
Practically picking people up off the street, because they've got to get a lineup. And my question is, they've got taxi squads, and they're supposed to have a 60-team or a 60-person, protected lineup. Why can't they pick from them?
they've got some guys in the minors that they feel are not ready.
Okay.
So they didn't want to put them in that situation. Right now, they're winning 1-0 in the middle of the fifth against Baltimore. The Orioles are 5-3. The Marlins are 2-1. I didn't think I would say that when we started the 60-game schedule, but Francisco Cervelli just homered to left at 369 feet to give them the 1-0 lead before the end of the inning. So I don't know. This is 2020. Beyond anything is possible, and if they won the division. The Braves took a big step back when they lost Mike Soroka for the year with his gruesome injury. And, they've only really got one reliable starter right now, Max Fried. So I think the division race is just tightened. The Mets are only 3 back, and they're in last place. And we 50 games to go.
Yeah, it's still anybody's race except maybe for the Pirates, like you said. They're not playing real well, and I don't really have a whole lot of faith in them right now. Let's, if I can, let me ask you a couple. I know you've been watching the hockey because you and I have been talking back and forth. I got to tell you, I think the play has been pretty darn good. There's been some close games, some cool comebacks. My biggest surprise, I thought that the Rangers might do a little bit better against the Hurricanes. But I'm not surprised that the Blackhawks won a game or the Habs, but it's been some fun hockey to watch.
It's been outstanding. I happened to catch the game 1 between the Rangers and Carolina. Not 3 minutes, the first 3 minutes of game, it was hard hitting, checking, just like you would expect for playoff hockey. And 3 minutes into the game, there was a fight. So, the Rangers are down 2-0, 2-0. It is tied at 1 with 10:28 to go in the second period. They took out their long time starting goaltender, the Rangers did, and put Shesterkin in, and he's made 12 saves out of 13 shots tonight. But the big story is they removed their longtime successful netminder, man, who's done a lot for the organization. But they say he's past his prime right now. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm not surprised. And that I can't pronounce his name. He had a good run before the pandemic. I think he was like 12-2 or 12-3. So I'm not surprised he's getting a chance. And I got to be honest with you, Todd. I didn't think that Henry the Great played all that well in Game 2. So their backs are against the wall. They need something. What is it? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Henry Lundqvist.
Yeah.
He had 34 shots. He saved 30 for about 88%. That's not going to get it, but Carolina is a hot team right now, and that outstanding player they've got, he had. I'm trying to pronounce his name, Shchesneskov.
That's close.
I know. I'm glad I'm not broadcasting their game tonight. Well, actually, I wish I was broadcasting their game tonight.
No kidding.
Shchesneskov, that's it. The Russian, he did that on his second goal. When he took that slap shot, he changed the speed of the shot, and it was like a knuckle puck, and it went right over his shoulder, and there's nothing he really could do about it. So, but you know how it is when teams are down, they always want to change the goalie to try to change the momentum, and what is it, it's been 30 years since the NHL went to best of 5, but, they're 55, and a team is 1-55 when they're down 2-0 in the history of the NHL in a best of 5. And I think the Rangers are just trying to do anything to steal one game tonight.
Well, the surprise that I thought I didn't see coming was tonight. I didn't get to watch the game because it started pretty much while I was on the show was Calgary putting 6 up on Hellebuck. Man, I just was like, I saw that score and I'm like, holy cow. Man, I wasn't expecting that. I picked Winnipeg to win that series just based on their goaltending. but it's not looking so good now for them.
Well, Calgary won today 6-2, and they had one of the goals disallowed. The Jets challenged it, but right now Calgary's in the driver's seat. But I think that series is going 5 games. I just do. Talbot had a great game. He had a great game in goal today, and he was, he was one of the stars of the game. And then Monahan, who played really well, the center for Calgary. This is a team that could surprise, and if they get past the Jets, and surprise in later rounds.
Well, we'll have to wait and see on that. I'll tell you the series that I picked this as my upset special, and I'm still not sold on this team in the playoffs, is Edmonton. And I had the Blackhawks, and I'll tell you why. They still have got Taves and Kane and Duncan Keith, I believe. Crawford knows what it's like to play in the playoffs. And Edmonton, to me, yeah, they won the other night, but they're still a two-man team, Todd, and I think I can see the Blackhawks stunning them in a 5-game series.
I actually think Chicago is going to win it in 5 games and stun Edmonton. And you got to love Kane. This guy's one of my favorite players in the NHL, man. He's got a nose for the puck. Can I say this? He reminds me of Brett Hull.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comparison?
That's pretty darn close. That's a great comparison. I like it.
Well, that's who it reminds me of. Brett Hull. When he gets the puck on his stick, he knows what to do with it. And the Blackhawks could win it. It's these playoffs now that we've had this long break, anything can happen. Look at Montreal.
Yeah.
With Carey Price, they stalled game 1. They lost game 2, but it's tied 1 game apiece. And say Montreal wins tomorrow, which I don't think they will. But if Carey Price steals another game, the Penguins are in major trouble.
Well, I know.
And
yeah.
Canadians will play with house money.
And Toronto finally got off the schneid and won a playoff game. What, it was like 8 in a row that they lost, and I just, you talk about being in somebody's head, and I tell you, I still think they're going to win that series, but
Me too.
my goodness, I mean, they did everything in their power to keep Columbus in that game today, even though they won. What was it, 3-0?
Yeah, 3-0. It's a great game by Austin Matthews, who I think is a superstar.
Yeah.
And, Hyman's a really good player. And then John, Tavares coming home, basically.
Yeah.
So, the Maple Leafs, I mean, they're the second closest team to us when we were kids watching Hockey Night in Canada at CBC out of Windsor. Mm-hmm. We always pulled for Toronto after Detroit. And, they're like the Chicago Cubs. They really are. They're like the lovable Chicago Cubs. They just can't get over the hump. They're going to do something to ruin their chances to win. But today, they tried their very best, but they managed to pull it out. Maybe they'll get going now.
Well, lastly, I think we've covered just about all. I don't watch much of the NBA. I know they're playing their regular season games, but once the playoffs start, I think it's going to be down to probably 4 teams, the two LA teams and Toronto and Milwaukee. Have you had a chance to check that out at all?
Not at all, and I'm very disappointed in the NBA for a lot of reasons. You'd have to do another show.
All right, that's fine. I don't watch them that often. I've got a couple of guys that I get on every once in a while that know more about it than I do. It's just I haven't followed it that closely, in a few years. It's just
neither have I. I know Nick Nurse is one hell of a basketball coach, and what he's done at Toronto without Kawhi Leonard, he's a defensive-minded coach, and I could see Toronto getting to the finals. I could see Boston getting to the finals. I could see Miami getting to the finals. Or Milwaukee. Those are the 4 favorites in the East, and the 2 LA teams are definitely the favorite in the West. But that Duncan Robinson kid from our neck of the woods played at University of Michigan for John Beilein. He went to the national championship game in Michigan. But before that, the incredible part of his story is, Lou, is that he played in the Division III national championship game and then came over and played the D1, and now he's like a starter for the Miami Heat, averaging about 14 points a game. I think he's an incredible story from going from Division III basketball to a starter in the NBA. That seldom to never happens.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think you're like me, though, Todd. When you've got 6 hockey games a day with the Stanley Cup playoffs on, to me, until football season starts up, that's going to be my sport of choice. When you can turn on NBCSN at noon and you can fall asleep to either that or USA Network at 11 o'clock at night with a hockey game just starting. That's nirvana for me, and that's what I'll be doing when the show's over. I'll be going up to watch the end of the Rangers game and fall asleep to the Canucks in the Wild.
Lou, what do you think of the Islanders? A team that, they're not a high-scoring team, but I think this is a dangerous team who I think could play with anybody in the East. If they keep the score down and they stay out of the box.
You hit the nail on the head. They're one of the best defensive teams, I think, in the East. And it's too bad if they were in the West, I'd pencil them in to be in the finals or against Colorado in the semis or, the Western Conference final. They got Barry Trotz, and he knows how to win. And, he had Nashville forever. Then, of course, he took to the Capitals to the Stanley Cup. I love the team, it's funny is they're playing Florida. And the ironic thing, Todd, with Florida is, they've got Quenneville, but they were such dramatic sellers at the deadline because they didn't think they had a shot. And they sold a lot of their good players, or they wanted to. And now look at them. They're, 10 seed? And I don't think Florida's going to beat the Islanders. But don't sleep on them, man. I'm telling you, like you said, their brand of hockey wins games.
Sure does. And, Boomer Esiason is a season ticket holder for the New York Rangers. But his son-in-law, Martin, plays for the New York Islanders, and he scored a goal today.
That's funny. That's
and he
hilarious.
Doesn't like the Islanders at all. So, I can only imagine what's going through his head. Because, Matt Martin married his daughter. Yep. So, and he scored a goal today, and Matt Martin doesn't score many goals. He is a true defenseman, who likes to mix it up and all that. But he scored a goal today, and things are really going well for the Islanders if Martin scores a goal.
Oh, 100%. Well, Todd, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let you go. We're going to up against a break. Thanks for taking time out tonight, and I'll talk to you real soon down the road. We'll get you back on when and if we get a decision on what football's going to do, college and pro.
Yes, and we'll also talk further on what's going on down here in high school football for Georgia because they're full steaming ahead too. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, same here in Michigan. They're starting practice next week. Pads isn't until the 17th, but as of right now, they're keeping their fingers crossed that we can have a season, so we can only hope. Thanks, Todd. We'll talk to you real soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on, Lou. Take care of yourself,
All right.
as always.
You too. Thank you. Todd Corder, one of our regular contributors here to the Captain Lou Extravaganza. He's a fountain of information, I'll tell you. He's got great stats and keeps up on the sports. He's the go-to guy, and he's right about that. Right now, let's keep our fingers crossed, as we mentioned, on sports at the high school level. And in football, I don't know. I don't know how football is how it's gonna make it. I really don't. But you know what? NFL, they might be able to pull it off, but the colleges and high schools, I just don't know how they've got the wherewithal financially and whatnot to be able to do it. So thanks to Todd for joining us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I got a special tribute that I want to pay that, it just kind of makes you think. And we're going to talk more about that. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on 12 Ounce Sports.
For the marching exercise, you want to sit down in the center front of your chair, bring your feet shoulder width apart, and form a 90-degree angle with your knees. From here, you're going to lift one foot and raise the opposite arm, just as you march in place in your chair. Make sure you keep that core nice and tight and you breathe into it, and also maintain good posture with a straight back.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on 12 Ounce Sports. Great show tonight, man. We've had some great conversation. I want to thank Todd Corder for jumping on. Again, one of our regular contributors to 12 Ounce Sports. He was with us on our draft show earlier in the year when we went through round one of the NFL draft. Some great insight. And, you know, he's kind of our southern connection as far as the SEC and whatnot. And, another one of our baseball historians. And, you know, just want to thank Todd for joining us here on the show. Hey, I want to remind everybody, if you're looking to freshen your look up for what's left of the summer, I know we got about a month or so, and then we're going to get into fall. You got to check out 12 Ounce Sports' new line of clothing. We've got everything from shirts to sweaters. We've got beach towels, phone cases, you name it. I think we got some coffee mugs left. We've got a great selection of swag on our website. What you need to do is go to 12ouncesports.com, 12ouncesportsradio.com, I beg your pardon, and then just hit the Our Store tab. It'll take you right to our online store, and we've got some great bargains, some great stuff. We've got the 12-ounce sports mask that you can wear. And again, I can't tell you enough, please wear your mask when you're out in public. We got to get this. If you want sports back, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a minute. If you want sports back, you got to wear your mask. And if you're going to have to wear your mask in public, do it fashionably and do it with a 12-ounce sports mask. And you can get that in the Our Store tab in our online store at 12ouncesportsradio.com. I really think it looks really cool, by the way. And it's a great way to help kick this coronavirus right square in the ass and get it out of here. And so we can have our high school sports and our college sports and whatnot. So again, check out the Our Store tab, 12ouncesportsradio.com. We've got the latest in masks, as I said. We've got shirts, sweaters, sweatshirts, you name it, iPhone cases, pencils, you name it, we've got it. But don't take my word for it. Check it out yourself. That's the Our Store tab on our website, 12ouncesportsradio.com. Hey, don't forget, we're on also channel 761 on Zingo TV. And again, you can get Zingo TV. It's free. Just go to their website and then hit the promo code 12-ounce sports, and it's free. You can watch all of our shows live and on replay. We'll be on Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. You can catch our interviews that we had tonight with Larry Figursky from Channel 8 out of Grand Rapids, Fred Lynn from the Boston Red Sox, 1975 AL Rookie of the Year and MVP, the only person to do that until Ichiro did it in 2001. And again, what he brought up, and I thought somebody else had done this, but they haven't. He is the only person to hit a grand slam in the All-Star game. And he did it 50 years after Babe Ruth hit a home run at Comiskey Park. So that was kind of cool to hear that. Fred, what a great interview. You'll be able to listen to that and watch that. Also, our broadcast will be on iTunes in about 24 hours. So, again, Zingo TV, channel 761, and the show will be replayed Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. We hope you get a chance to check out that and some of our other shows. Check out the Vegas Squares podcast. They're going to talk about the PGA Championship coming up this weekend. Philly Pete's Power Plays. There's the man. You want all the hockey insight. You want to talk to him. And he is, as far as fantasy sports or hockey knowledge, if you want to bet a few shackles on hockey, Subscribe to him. And I'm telling you, you won't go wrong. Trust me on that one. By the way, if you're going to do that and you want to put those shackles down, there's no better place to do that than mybookie.ag. They've got tons of action right now. Like I mentioned, last weekend, I think, what was it, 66 games? 66 between basketball, hockey, and baseball. When could you ever say that in August? Well, and if there's any kind of sport you wanted to bet on, or golf, or whatever, it's mybookie.ag. And don't forget, your first deposit, use the promo code 12-ounce sports, and they will match that deposit up to $1,000, 100%. It's that simple. And if you don't feel like betting on sports, they've got a little casino there where you can play some slots, a little 3-card poker, whatever. That's mybookie.ag. It's completely safe. And use the promo code 12-ounce sports, and you will get your first. They will match your first deposit 100% up to $1,000. So there you go. I wanted to take a few minutes towards the end of the show tonight. Here in Michigan, in the Detroit area, for those of you that are sports fans that listen to Sports Talk Radio, what I consider one of the best sports talk show hosts that has come along in Detroit passed away last Saturday at the young age of 48 years old. His name was Jamie Samuelson. I never met the guy, but I can remember when he started he started out in Detroit 24 years ago, whatever it was, and he just mainly did updates on WDFN, the AM station that was the first all sports talk station. And he worked hard. He made a name for himself in the Detroit area. He started out. He got his own show with Bob Wojnarowski, who was a beat writer, still is, columnist for the Detroit News. They ended up going on 97.1 The Ticket out of Detroit at night, 7 to 9 or 6 to 9, whatever it was. They would be preempted by Tiger Baseball or the Red Wings or whatever. Then he moved to mornings with Mike Stone, who is another Detroit radio personality that's been there forever. What I liked about Jamie Samuelson is there was no fluff with him. What I liked about him is, at least on air, and from what I'm told in real life, he was the same way, is he wasn't one of these guys that was the shock jock type of sports personality that was his gimmick and everything was all hot takes, stupid hot takes, or stuff to just get you riled up enough to just call you every name in the book. He wasn't that type of guy. And he passed away from colon cancer, and it was, he kept it to himself. Nobody, obviously we didn't know, or, as a listener, we didn't know. He came on his show. He had been taking some time off. He got diagnosed with it last year. And he'd been off sporadically. I didn't listen to him a lot since he went in the mornings because with my normal job, I can't get Detroit radio stations. So I was unable to listen to him. Once in a while, I'd be able to hear him when I had a route close to Detroit. But in the last 5 or 6 years, no, I haven't been able to do it. But his professionalism could not be beaten. Now, there's sports personalities all over the country and all over the world that, again, like I said, all they are hot takes. They want to be controversial because they think that gets listeners. And maybe it does. But, that's just not something that I think, that I gravitate to. And I'd like to think that I would like to emulate somebody like Jamie. I didn't know him, but it's funny how when a sports personality or somebody you listen to on the radio or watch on TV or, a character, how you grow attached to them, they become a part of your life. Every morning you listen to your favorite sports announcer or DJ or whatever, and they become part of your life. And when they're gone or they quit or whatever, there's a void. And unfortunately, we do have a void now in Detroit radio and radio throughout the world with the passing of Jamie Samuelson. 48 years old, colon cancer. Now, they say to get it checked with, colonoscopy when you're 50. Well, I consider myself pretty lucky because I've had some broken bones and whatnot, very minor stuff in my life. I'm going to be 55 in a month, and I haven't had really a serious ailment. Like I said, I've broken my ankle, I've broken fingers with my job, I've twisted a knee or my shoulder, whatever. I've got a physical job, but that's nothing. And, if there's any message with his passing, maybe you should get your colonoscopy when you're 40 instead of 50 or 45. Cancer, but getting back to him, it does leave a void in my life. Like I said, I never met the guy, but he was, to me, the consummate professional. Very rarely did I hear him say a bad thing about anybody. I mean, he would say bad things about the Lions, but not in a derogatory, personal attack kind of a way. There are guys on his radio station that do that for a living, and they've been doing it a long time. And for those of you that are in this area, I think you know who I'm talking about. And that, to me, is not professional. Now, again, I with Jamie's style and with the style that I try to do, I'm not out to try to make outrageous statements. Now, I might say things are terrible once in a while, but to me, calling out somebody and calling them names is not the way to go. Jamie never did that. And I didn't know him, but I feel very sad for him and for his family. And, it's tough. He's got a wife with 3 kids, 11, 13, and 17, I believe, or 18, 16, whatever. And that's a void that's never going to be forgotten. And it's a sad day in Detroit, sports media-wise, because they lost a true gentleman and a true professional. And I wanted to say thank you to him for his professionalism. And it's crazy is now you see guys at my age, I see guys that are younger than me that I look up to. And I tried to pattern myself after. And Jamie Samuelson was one of them. Again, he was very even-keeled, but he was professional. He did his job. He was well prepared. And, it was said that when he first hired in Detroit, they didn't expect him to stay there long, but he made it his life and his community. He married a local girl, and they raised a family. And it's tough, and so I just wanted to, say my condolences to his family and just to say to Jamie, rest in peace, my friend. I hope you're up there. I hope I get to meet you someday up there and tell you thank you for, being that role model on sports radio that I would like to pattern myself and continue to pattern myself up after and be the professional person or try to be like he was. Jamie Samuelson passed away at 48. He was on the radio Monday talking about it a week ago with his partner. And I listened to it. I was on vacation, just happened to listen to it that day. They played it on their website. And I thought he sounded pretty good, but obviously he wasn't. Things were not very good. They were rough. And he had the professionalism and, the wherewithal to come on and talk about it and just to kind of tell everybody to be aware of that type of disease. And if you'd have told me that he would have passed away 5 days later, the whole world's in shock, or the Detroit world anyways. So I want to say again, Jamie, rest in peace, Godspeed, and thank you for the memories that you gave of Detroit radio. And again, I hope to meet you someday up in heaven. So there you go. Well, that's going to do it tonight for our show. I want to thank, again, Larry Figursky for coming on from Channel 8, old college buddy of mine, way back 35 years ago. We used to do a show on WCHP AM in Mount Pleasant. 2 Central Michigan broadcasting students. I want to thank Larry and congratulate him on his award the 2020 Jim Ellery Award, AHL's Media Person of the Year. And I want to thank Fred Lynn. Freddie Lynn, number 19 of the Boston Red Sox, 1975 World Series. He was the first American League Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year. Great conversation with Fred. Thanks for joining us here. Fred, thanks for coming on with us tonight. And also Todd Korter jumping on tonight on short notice. Always great conversation with Todd. We'll have him on again from time to time. And I want to thank you for taking time out to join us tonight as well. We'll be back next Tuesday, 8 to 10 p.m. live Eastern Time on 12 Ounce Sports. We'll start our football previews. Hope you can join us. And we'll be on again, Zingo's Channel 761, 5 o'clock Thursday. We'll hope you can check us out. This reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, please, keep your minds open. Good night, everybody. We'll see you soon on the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live on 12